Holy crap.
People persist in doubting the evidence.
Don't run and hide. Don't be afraid. Don't turn away any longer. The truth will set you free.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
We're turning all of our antennas towards Jimmy Church.
And now, your host, the captain of conspiracy, the prince of paranormal. This ain't your daddy's radio network show. This is Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
All right. Welcome. Fade to Black. Bespoke radio for the masses. Yeah. Today's Wednesday, January 28th. 28 days into the new year. 337 days left. We are live from the truthfunders.com studios right here in downtown Burbank, California. Do you have a book, an expedition, an invention, or a paranormal documentary that you want to get funded? Go to truthfunders.com. Truthfunders, the number one source of backing your project into the fringe. For KJCR and the Game Changer Network, I am your oh-so-humble host, Jimmy Church. What is going on? Let's get this show cracking. Excited? Man, sounds good in here. Just to let you know, the studio is dark. Studio's pitch black. Got a great show tonight. Dr. Aaron Judkins. It's actually Judkins. Talked to Aaron today. I said Judkins? He said Judkins. So we're going to go with Judkins. Excited, man. He's a man's man. Big salute to the proud men and women in uniform all around the world defending that right to freedom of speech and the right for this show to be broadcasting right now. Think about it. Let's go. I am ready. Lots of exciting things going on. Faders.org. It's free. It's fun. Become a Fader-Not today. You want the secret code? You want in? Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Hashtag F2B. That's F and the number 2 and B. That is the sandbox. Come on out and play. For all of you new listeners right now, the sandbox on Twitter. Get yourself TweetDeck. That is the place to hang out. We burn through 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 tweets a night during the show. I follow everything. If you have any questions for myself, Aaron Judkins, just go to hashtag F, the number 2, BQ. That's Fade to Black questions. And I will see it live during the show. Also, if you want any email, any comments about the show, any questions, you can email Jimmy at jimmychurchradio.com. Get her done. Make it good. You can also go over to jimmychurchradio.com, the website, and go to the contacts page. Just make it good. And it will get past the producers and make it in here to me. And with that, I'm excited. I am so excited. Let's get this show cracking. I have been a big fan of Aaron Judkins for a long time, and he is a full-time archaeologist. He is a part-time, and I'm going to let him tell you the story tonight. But he's an emergency medvac helicopter guy. Oh, yeah. He gets it done. He goes around the world. He is doing his he's doing his digging. He's doing his digging. And then when he is not doing that, he's saving lives. And like I said, he's a man's man. He's also got a new film coming out, Finding Noah, about his quest for Noah's Ark. We will be talking about that too as well. And before we, this is the thing for me, when it comes to guys like Aaron, guys and gals like Aaron, we all want to be doing that. Discovering and digging and sifting, and just something amazing is just right around the corner. And that's what he does. And I'm fully jealous. He's been to all the cool places. He's done his discoveries, and that's what he does, and it's what drives him. And that's what we will be talking about all night tonight on the show. What he has seen, where he has been, what his beliefs are. And I just can't express enough my excitement of having Aaron on with us tonight. We will have open lines. The number is 323-825-5045. You can also Skype in. Fade to Black 14 will be taking your calls. And also, don't forget, hashtag F2BQ. If you do have any questions and you can't call in, just tweet us, and we will get to it. All right? Also, I got an email from Terry Walsh over in Liverpool, England. And, whoa, get this ready. He said, Jimmy, have you seen this video of Bigfoot? And he continues on. He says, this has got to be the best I've seen. It looks to me like it's caught an animal and then it hits it a few times before dragging it off. Now, we're going to post this video here in a second in Twitter if you want to go check it out. I watched it a few times today. Now, I'm not going to tell you what's going on in the video. That would be giving it away. But check this video out and let me know what you think. It's pretty interesting. And that's all I am really going to say. Now, really, as far as Bigfoot videos go, if this is real, it's one of the best. And just look and, okay, there it is. Whoa, just posted it up. Follow us on Twitter right now. Let me retweet this in real time. There you go. All right, boom. It's out there to the universe. Check this video out. And if it's real, and like the Patterson video, there's this thing is acting like an animal. That's what I want to say. It's unhuman-like. So just check it out. Just let me know what you think. And if it's been debunked, let me know too as well. I didn't get a chance to do a whole lot of investigation on it. I just found it interesting, and I thought that I would share it with you. What was I going to say? Oh, I talked last night about some speakers that we will be debuting here, some Bluetooth speakers, a couple of different kinds. And we're ready to go. We will do that tomorrow night on Fader Night. And maybe we'll get a contest or two going with those speakers too as well. We'll give away some to you Fader Knots out there. Again, follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. That's what you want to do. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to bust off right now. There's a reason for that. We got a lot of news to cover tonight. And also some breaking news, too, as well. I'll get to all of that when we come back. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Network, right here, Spreaker, iHeartRadio in a couple of days. We are ready to go with that. TuneIn Radio will be ready. I guess TuneIn will be ready tomorrow. So we're good to go. Excited. Things are cracking around here. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Bespoke Radio for the masses. This is Fade to Black. Tonight, Dr. Aaron Judkins will be with us, and I'll be back with the news you know nothing about right after this. Stay with us.
You're listening to Jimmy Church, Fade to Black.
What's up, revolutionaries? It's me, Jimmy Church. Do you have an IRS or state tax issue? Well, I did, and I called national tax experts. My problems were fixed, done, fini, and man, I gotta tell you, it was a relief. National tax experts are a recognized tax office that services clients in all 50 states. It doesn't matter where you live. Give them a call. I'm telling you, they take the time to understand each and every client's individual financial status as well as their financial goals. And that's exactly what you need, my brother, when you're taking on the evil 3-letter. So, seriously, give them a call today at 1-877-909-5444. Again, 1-877-909-5444. Or go check out their website, www.nattaxexperts.com. That's NATTAXEXPERTS.com. Tell them Jimmy sent you.
This is KJCR at JimmyChurchRadio.com.
All right, tonight on Fade to Black, Dr. Aaron Judkins. This is Bespoke Radio for the masses. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, your oh so humble host. Welcome to everybody listening around the world, across the United States, hither and thither, to and fro, back and forth, up and down, east and west, far and near, north and south. Welcome. Now, for all of you new listeners right now checking out the show, this is a long-form conversation. We start where we start, we end where we end. The questions are not pre-scripted. I have nothing in front of me. And we just sit down and get it on. And where we start, we start. We end where we end. That's what the show is. I'm going to say this before I get to the news. We have a lot of new listeners. My ambition for radio was to give what I wasn't getting. I would listen to overnight radio, drive around in my car, AM radio, sports radio, talk radio, and I could tell that whoever was hitting the mic was giving half. I wanted everything. And I thought, if I ever get the chance, I'm going to give it all. I'm not going to hold back because I want to hear things. I want the right questions asked. And when I hear or see, especially in the mainstream media, we ask the questions, nobody else will. That's a bunch of BS. That's not what goes down. Those are talking heads. That's not what goes down here. That's what this show is about. I want you to feel the feeling that I had growing up listening to overnight radio and listening to some guy take me on a journey, suck me in. And I would lay there at night in my dark room with my little AM radio on the nightstand right next to me, and I would just go on a trip. That's what this show was about. That's the intention. Every single night, I need you to get sucked in. You may not agree. And in fact, if you don't, that's what I need. If you agree with everything, then change the dial. Hit the mouse, go somewhere else, because that's just boring. You need to be stirred. You need to have your imagination. You need to be inquisitive. And then the next day you get up and you think about what you heard the night before. And you go on your quest to learn. That's what this show is about. Are we clear? All right. Now, with that, the news that you probably know nothing about. Oh, maybe a little bit. That's why you are smart. There has been a spike in online threats made against airlines since January 17th. when a bomb threat was made against a flight between Atlanta and Raleigh, North Carolina, according to a U.S. official. Since that threat, authorities have received more than 50 threats made online against airlines. The official says that most of the incidents are believed to be copycat. None of the threats have proven credible. On January 17th, F-16 fighter jets were called in to escort two passenger planes in Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport after a bomb threat was made on Twitter, which was deemed credible, according to military officials. Southwest Airlines Flight 2492 and Delta Flight 1156 landed safely at the airport and were searched by bomb disposal units, according to airline officials. Nothing out of the ordinary was found. One runway was closed temporarily, causing delays for other flights on passengers. The other two flights were questioned, and their luggage was searched, bomb-sniffing dogs, the whole thing. Nothing found. Are astronauts discouraged from drinking coffee while in space? Well, Clayton C. Anderson, two-time ISS astronaut, six-time spacewalker, 30-year NASA employee, he's now retired, but he answered that question. And he said, as far as I can recall, I was never discouraged by anyone from drinking coffee while living aboard the International Space Station. For me, morning coffee was one of the most wonderful psychological benefits, reminding me of life here on Earth. My preferred coffee was Hawaiian Kona with creamer and sugar. If I didn't have this available to me, I didn't drink any coffee at all. Yes, I'm a coffee snob. He goes on, check this out. He says, my crewmates, Station Commander Fyodor Yurchichkin and Flight Engineer Soyuz Commander Oleg Kotov, both loved coffee, as do many Russians. He was a black coffee kind of guy, while Oleg liked his black coffee with sugar. Seemed like our taste in coffee, bean nectar category, fit together perfectly. However, I learned early in our 5-month stay that they both drank way more coffee than I did. And once their individual stashes were depleted, they went after mine. It wasn't until I called the Mission Control Center and requested, check this out, more of my personal coffee choice be sent up on STS-118. That's right. He placed an order for coffee. Commander Scott Kelly brought us an ample new supply. After that point in August 2007, I had plenty of coffee for the remainder of my stay in orbit. That's insane. And I'm wondering, do they send it up ground? And how does it work? How do they make the coffee? Or is it instant coffee? But how do you do instant? I read through all of it. How do you make instant Kona coffee? Are you grinding the beans? And how does, a drip coffee maker works with gravity. So they must have a coffee maker up there. And if anybody knows, please hit me. How do they make their coffee on the International Space Station? Last year, the space technology company SpaceX sued the United States Air Force over what it saw as unfair practice. The United States Air Force gave a sole source, uncompeted contract to United Launch Alliance, that's right, the ULA, for a series of rocket launches for national security satellites. SpaceX said it had earned a right to be able to table to a bid for such contracts. At that time, though, the problem was the SpaceX Falcon 9 rockets had not been rated and approved for such missions. The disagreement appears to have been settled. SpaceX has dropped the lawsuit. For its part, the United States Air Force has agreed to help complete and certify the Falcon 9s. It also agreed to open up future launches to competitive bids while still maintaining existing contracts with ULA. Japan and ISIS have agreed on an exchange of journalist Kenji Koto, held hostage by the Islamist militants, for Shajida al-Rishawi, the Iraqi woman who killed 60 people in 2005 in a Jordan bombing. Now, this is according to a Japanese diplomat. Japanese Deputy Foreign Minister Yasushi Nakamaya added that it's good news and it's about to come soon. A Jordanian government spokesman has also said that Amman is prepared to free would-be suicide bomber if its pilot is freed in return. However, the deal did not appear to progress throughout the day. I have been monitoring it. It's strange how it has fallen silent. In the meantime, ISIS now has extended their deadline. Sounds to me like there's some back-channel action going on here. It's been a tough month for ISIS, though. Its fighters have been driven out of Kobani after 100 days of fighting against the Kurdish militia. And Iraqi government forces have pushed ISIS back in Diyala. And also Mosul looks like it's about to fall here soon, even though it's still under ISIS control. But ISIS is starting to look vulnerable. We'll see. Researchers say that a powerful computer program that was discovered last year and is linked to campaigns of espionage waged against global targets is strikingly similar to a piece of malware used by the National Security Agency and its Five Eyes allies. Earlier this month, journalists at Der Spiegel published the source code for a computer program called QWERTY, a piece of software designed to intercept all keyboard keys pressed by the victim and record them for later inspection, and said that they hoped the disclosure would foster further research and enable the creation of an appropriate defense. The QWERTY program, according to documents provided to Der Spiegel by former NSA contractor Edward Snowden, is included in an arsenal of malware products used by the NSA and its intelligence-gathering allies, called the Five Eyes. The suite of tools, the German paper said, is used by the U.S., Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom in order to eavesdrop on targets and conduct other sorts of destructive cyber ops. According to researchers at Kaspersky Labs, who have reviewed QWERTY during the last 10 days, said the keylogger source code can be linked to Region. We've been talking about Region all year long. Another spy tool that raised eyebrows when it was discovered in late 2014 and alleged to have been used against targets in Algeria, Afghanistan, Belgium, Brazil, Fiji, Germany, Iran, India, Indonesia, Malaysia, Pakistan, Russia, and Syria, among others. A newly discovered planet, check this out, makes Saturn's famed ring collection look downright tiny. Astronomers from Leiden Observatory in the Netherlands and Rochester University in the United States discovered the planet encircled by a ring system more than 200 times the diameter of Saturn's. With more than 30 rings, it's the first system of its kind to be discovered outside our solar system, and it may be churning out more moons and protoplanets. SuperWASP is the United Kingdom's top exoplanet detection program and consists of 2 robotic observatories that operate year-round. Using data from SuperWASP, astronomers discovered an unusual series of eclipses that occurred in 2007 and obscured the light from a sun-like star called J1407. For 56 days, light from 1407 faded in and out in a complex pattern, and at times more than 95% of the star's light was blocked. The Internet of Things consists of roughly 25 billion objects, sending invisible signals to communicate in a way that was unheard of a decade ago. Now, according to a new report, the risks involved are growing rapidly and might warrant new rules. Telephones, automobiles, refrigerators, and seemingly anything that can host a computer chip are quickly becoming part of the Internet of Things, the IoT, a concept that the U.S. Federal Trade Commission defined in a report this week as the ability of everyday objects to connect to the Internet and to send and receive data. Only 7 billion items belong to the IoT infrastructure in 2009. The FTC acknowledged in the report that that number is expected to reach 50 billion in 5 years. But as the benefits of delivering and distributing data in this manner grow day by day, the FTC report suggests that so do the security risk. Think about it. Think about it for a second. If you can start cracking and hacking refrigerators, think about that for a second. Anything else, home automation systems, think about that. You just wake up one day and nothing works. In the past few days, a new GMO scandal has hit the headlines. The UK biotech firm Oxitec has proposed the release of special genetically modified mosquitoes in the Florida Keys. Millions of GMO mosquitoes will be released in Florida if Oxitec gets its way. Florida, you have no idea what you're about to meet. The Washington Post actually called them genetically modified killer mosquitoes, warning that they may attack the Florida Keys. George Dvorsky for IO9 cautions that, I love IO9, cautions that millions of mutated mosquitoes could be unleashed in Florida on purpose. It's safe to say that the news of the FDA's deliberations on whether to allow these Frankenstein mosquitoes are causing quite the stir. Right now, there's even a change.org petition to fight the release of the Frankenstein mosquitoes. Right now, 140,000 signatures. An IT security engineer has discovered, seems like we report on drones every day. There's something going on. We had the White House drone the other day, drones over nuclear facilities, drones around airports, drones around your house, filming your family through the window. And, well, check this out. There's a guy right now that's got a hack. He's got a hack for hackers. That's right. This hack will ground thousands of quadcopters right now. The Register reports today that Rahul Sasi has developed software that hijacks drones in midair and kills their engines. You have to see it. It's on. It's a box with the transmitter in it underneath another drone. If the drone that you want to hack is within range of the malware that he has written, it's called Maldrone, by the way, the affected drone plummets to Earth. But if the drone is up high enough, then the malware can restart the engines before it hits the ground and control the drone as well as its camera. Right now, the malware only affects Parrot drones. Security Affairs reports that Sasi reverse engineered the software sold by Parrot and found a flaw that allowed him to develop his own malware and take over Parrot drones. And that's it. That's all the news you need to know that you know nothing about. When I come back after the break, it'll be Dr. Aaron Judkins with us. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. Follow us right now on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Hashtag F2BQ. Come play in the sandbox. Come hang out. I'll be back. with Dr. Aaron Judkins right after this. Stay with us.
My name is Nick Dominguez. Hi, I'm Rex Dominguez, and I listen to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Jimmy is your preacher. Amen.
This is Toby Kebbell. You're listening to JimmyChurchRadio.com. Don't hurt me, Jimmy. I'm only little.
Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And this is Ari Gold.
We're of the Honey Brothers.
Yes.
We're of the Honey Brothers. Hey, I'm Adrian Grenier.
And I'm Ari Gold.
We're the Honey Brothers.
And you're listening to Jimmy Church.
The Revolution.
KJCR.
JimmyChurchRadio.com. Despite popular opinion, reading a book will not make you smarter.
But listening to Jimmy Church will.
All right, everybody, welcome back. Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. I'm your host, Jimmy Church, and that is, for all you new listeners, that is Doug Aldrich playing the guitar right there. Amazing stuff. Chris Frazier on drums. Yeah. Dr. Aaron Judkins, also known as Maverick, is an author, explorer, and archaeologist from Tejas, Texas. He has a passion for searching for the truth about the mysteries of the past, exposing forbidden archaeology and forbidden history, my two favorite subjects. He is also a producer known for Finding Noah, his new movie, and Hidden Mountain, The Los Lunas Mystery Stone of 2012. He has appeared in Footprints in Stone, Forbidden History 2, 2013, and Watchers 8. Didn't I just give away a Watchers 8 video, or do I still have it? Maybe we'll do that again tonight. I'll check the junk drawer here. Maverick has participated in numerous excavations throughout the U.S. and Israel, including the Pool of Siloam in Jerusalem in 2004. He is credited with mapping the longest continuous dinosaur trackway in the Western Hemisphere and discovering a new trail of dinosaur tracks named the Judkins Trail. How cool is that? Maverick has been featured on both international radio and TV broadcasts, including Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie, History Channel's H2. He is a guest radio show host for Epic Voyages Radio on Inception Radio, one of my favorite shows, and is the host of his own show called Man vs. Archaeology. His PhD is in biblical archaeology. I would like to welcome to the program my good friend, our good friend, and new fade or not, Dr. Aaron Judkins. Aaron, how are you tonight, sir?
Jimmy Church. It's an honor and a privilege.
Oh, stop, man. The honor's all here, brother. Oh, man. So what's it? Go ahead.
Well, and I really like the fade or not thing. I always wanted to know how do I become a fade or not? So have I been inducted into the Hall of Fame here, the Fade or Not Hall of Fame? Because I want in.
You took the shortcut. You went straight in. Yeah. It's the mystery. The Fade or Nots have done it all on their own, man. And it is such a crazy, humbling thing to see what they have built and the website that they have built over at faders.org. I don't know if you've been over there and peeped that out, but you should check. Yeah, it's pretty amazing, isn't it?
It really is. I'm really honored to be invited into the Fade or Not, club. I have been a fan of the show, I have to say, and I've been following it now for some time, and the listenership is amazing. The response is amazing. So I'm very honored to be invited into the Fade or Nots.
Well, most of them listen to your show, and they're totally jacked up about you being here with us. And I said this leading into the show, and I don't want to, even though I've said this to you, on the phone in the past, I'm jealous. You live a life that, for all of us that are into adventure and have inquisitive minds and question the man, you're doing what we all wish we could do. And I really mean that. My hat's off to you and a big pat on the back, because that's what you do. You are a full-time archaeologist. And then if you're not doing that, you're saving lives in a helicopter. How cool. Well. Seriously. That is just crazy, Aaron.
I live a crazy life. And thank you, by the way. But I tell you that getting to where I'm at has not been an easy road, and it has been a struggle to get here. But I'm just a normal guy, just like everybody else. I just decided not to give up on my passion, and for me, that kind of took a fork in the road when I decided to go, and pursue the medical field. But I always had a passion for archaeology, and I never gave up on it. And quietly for the last, many years behind the scenes, I just did my thing. And slowly that grew somehow. I don't know. It's similar to the Fadernauts, it just grows. And there's a point where you think, is this, what am I doing? Is this going to actually break into something else later? But for me, I really had some people who just kind of invited me along to tag along with them. And because of that, that opened some doors. And so later on, as I went through, and finally got my graduate, level work done, and I began to go in the field, and I really, really just started to eat it up, because I realized I'm here. At what point do you say I'm here? I'm doing it. And I'm looking around me, and I'm in, Jerusalem on an archaeological site, and I'm thinking, wow, I'm really here, and I'm really doing something. And so for me, I love getting my hands dirty and just digging up stories of the past.
Are you an adrenaline junkie?
Well, I do have to admit that I am in a way, but since I've pushed past 40 now, that's kind of slowed down a little bit. But I decided a long time ago, Jimmy, that I wasn't going to live my life on the couch, that I was going to do something with myself, and whatever that was, I wanted to make the most of it. And for me, it was, okay, I'm going to go in the medical field, but I wanted to pursue the passion in archaeology, and I have so many different things that I love to do that I just decided to do all of it.
Well, I got to cut you off, because every time I see a picture of you, you're on a mountaintop in some mountain gear with frost in your beard, or next to a helicopter, look what I did today, and I'm just thinking, I hate this guy. Look, every time I see him, he's having, just the adrenaline rush of a lifetime. And I just, it's jealousy, so I'll try to end the fanboy, the bro love side of things, but you go for it, and you're exactly right. You could sit on the couch, or you can go and do something about it, and you chose the latter.
Well, and for me, I just decided not to live life with regret towards the end of my life, whenever that is, But I don't want to look back and say, I wish I could have done this. I should have done that. And I just don't want to do that. So regarding the medical side of things, there's thousands of paramedics every day that work, on the ground ambulances, ground pounding. They're in the helicopter. They're in fixed wings. They're on the fire trucks with the fire departments. And look, those guys are the everyday quiet heroes that do their thing. And you don't ever think about them until you need them. And usually when you need them, it's in an emergency, and you're, driving to go do your thing. And then all of a sudden you don't, you're in a situation and it's emergent and you need them. And those are the guys who really are the quiet heroes. And on that side of my life, I do have facets of my life. And And one of those things is to be able to, it's a joy to be able to go do those things because I get to help people. And that's also a passion of mine. So, and they really need you at that particular time. It is very fast paced and there's very quick decisions you have to make. But I can tell you, being on that helicopter has been very rewarding for me.
I can only imagine. And again, part of it is the adrenaline rush. I had a friend of mine about a year ago, paramedic. He's an ambulance driver / paramedic. You know,
I love
you're
that.
both
Ambulance driver.
right.
Oh my God.
And for the fire department here in L.A. And we were driving in a car. I'm the passenger. He's driving. And let me say this. My comment to him was, dude, you're not scared of anything, are you? And he's like, nope. And I was like, wow. Right. Wow, okay. You know, I did have my seatbelt on, but I felt like I could have rode around with it off, even though he was driving like he was. And it was pretty insane. But, you know, again, and he said, I asked him the same question, is there an adrenaline rush? He said, man, when we go on a call, you're wide awake, just instant. No matter what you were doing, you're instantly wide awake and alert, and you get addicted to that.
Well, you know that's true for most people in the field. They're Type A personalities, and they live that life on the go. And I'm talking 24-hour shifts, getting up. You know, you just pull the covers over your head and the tones go off, and you got to get up and go. There's many nights where I never saw the bunk. You know, you don't sleep. But you know, that's part of, you know, the other thing that I do in my life. You know, it's funny. People ask me, what do you do? And I have to tell them it depends on what day that you meet me because there's times that, you know, I may be on the helicopter. There's other times I may be, you know, doing my thing in the field with archaeology. So it really depends on the day that you meet me because I can be doing one thing and then go over to another thing. But, you know, for me, I like that. I choose to kind of do that. And I really enjoy both worlds. So when I get to do one, I love it. When I get to go do the other, I love it. But it kind of breaks up the monotony for me. And I think that's you know, that's a good thing sometimes, is to not get monotonous, not get stagnant, and so I just live life passionately.
So it's official. You're a fade or not. I don't know if you're watching Twitter, but you're in. You're in. Our producer just tweeted. Did he just say bro love? Now, so let's back up. When it comes to the reason why you are an archaeologist, did this start when you were a kid? Was there something about Egypt or Rome or Greece or you know, different spots around the world that maybe cause you to think that something is wrong here? You know, the dinosaurs and so forth.
Right. I will never forget going to see Jurassic Park for the first time.
Sure.
And seeing those things. And I just never dreamed I would be, you know, one day digging up dinosaurs. I remember seeing Indiana Jones for the first time. I never dreamed I'd be able to go out and do things in the field and do archaeology work in Peru and things like this. But no, it would be cool if I could say yes. But the honest, simple answer is it started with a rock. When I was a young boy, my grandparents were rock hounds. And they would schedule their vacations around rock hounding. They would go out and they would bring back a ton of rocks and they would cut them up and polish them. And so as a kid, you know, when I went to visit them, I got to see that and these different rocks and the colors, and they would just really intrigue me. So I got to go out with them and find my own rocks. And that led into finding artifacts and arrowheads and, you know, things like that. And I really gained an interest in history very quickly because I wanted to know the story behind this artifact that I was holding. What's this about? Who made this? Why did they make it? What does it do? And so what culture was this? So that really began a natural, you know, thing for me growing up. And so I just loved history. I wanted to soak up everything I could wherever I was. So if I was out on vacation, for example, then I would hit all the spots, that's historical related or archaeological related, and I would go learn about that. And so for me, that's fun. Now, it's not fun for everybody. You have to stop at every road sign and every hill and piece of clump of dirt, and but for me, I really, really enjoyed that because I wanted to learn what happened here. What's the story behind this? And then you just naturally you start to learn. And so what a thing for me growing up to be able to do that. But I never thought that I could actually do those things until later on in life. Now, as I said earlier, I decided to go into the medical field and pursue that, and I did. But I always had this, passion for archaeology, and I would just go do these things. Back in 1996 or 7, I got invited to go on a dig, and they said, "Come with us to Colorado. We're digging dinosaur bones." And as a matter of fact, some people from NASA are going to be there, and we'd like to have you come along. And I said, "I'm not qualified to go dig a dinosaur bone out of the ground. I don't know anything about it." And they said, "Oh yeah, you'll be fine. We'll watch you." So I said, "Are you sure?" They said, "Yeah, we're sure. Probably come on." So and that kind of opened the door to where I was able to go and be a part of that. And fast forward years later, it was in 2012, I directed that same excavation site in 2012, where I was the director in charge of the excavation. And so I'm looking back and I'm thinking, wow, this has really come a long way, from the person that I was just trying to, be a part of what they were doing, to being the director of that dig was just amazing. So there's a lot of things that I've been able to do like that, regarding digs and going out in the field. And sometimes it's just who you know. And so for me, I just wanted to be around those people, like-minded, who could teach me. And so I was just very teachable. I wanted to know everything about, what was going on. So then later on in life, I decided I didn't decide. Someone approached me and said, "Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you, pursuing this more formally, more academically?" I said, I don't know. They said, "You need to." So that really kind of planted a seed for me to go back and go back to school and finish up, and I did. And I'm very thankful that I did. It's never too late to do what you want to do.
Exactly right. Did you have a list of different spots around the globe, a hit list, a bucket list of things that you wanted to check off and go investigate?
Well, just kind of in the back of my mind, I probably did. I never had written it down until later. But my first big break was in 2004, and I got invited to go to Israel. And they said the matter of fact, the local indigenous archaeologist there in Israel said, "We think we found something big. We're inviting this team over. We're going to wait for you guys to get here." And I got invited to go. And I said, "I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I've got to go." And so, some things happened and I was able to go. And in 2004, we actually excavated the Pool of Siloam in the old city of David in Jerusalem in Israel. This is called Ir David. And this was a site where this was a pool in this area, and it would be down from the city David, which sits on a mountain. It would be down the mountain, and the temple would be on top. See, and so you just didn't walk into the temple. You got to go through the thing. You got to go through the pool first. You got to change garments, and then you got to walk up and ascend the stairs up to the temple. That's how you got up there. Mm-hmm. And we found this pool in 2004, and it was huge.
When you say pool, swimming pool, is that what you mean when you say pool?
Well, and most people would think that it's about the size of a football field. This pool.
Man. Oh man!
It's not in that shape, in a large rectangle shape. It's more trapezoidal shape. But we couldn't excavate the whole thing because as the thing, is going down in the mountain, it goes under the property next door, which is a Greek Orthodox church, and the rest of the pool goes underneath that. And that's a big deal to dig over there. And normally it takes 5 years to get permissions and all this. Well, they hit this digging for a sewer line, and they stopped, and so that's how they found this. But we were not able to get permission to dig up the Greek Orthodox Church's backyard property. I mean, that's just not going to happen.
Well, we can't ignore the fact. I mean, Jerusalem is built on top of everything. So when you look at an apartment building there, you're looking at thousands of years of history you don't know what's underneath a modern store or supermarket or shopping mall or movie theater or restaurant or house or apartment building. Everything is built on ancient history.
There's stuff there. I mean, there's stuff under your feet. You just don't know it.
Right. Yeah, you're walking. There's a street in front of you. That street is built on. I can't imagine how many feet of history. It's just everywhere you walk. If you stopped and started digging, you're going to find something in Jerusalem.
Oh, you're going to find something. Jerusalem was destroyed and rebuilt some 25 times throughout history.
Right.
So there's all kinds of stuff. What's interesting? When we dug for that pool, there was an area, a bank, the dirt bank, okay, and we were able to see everything from the bottom. I would say about 4 foot from the top down. There was pottery, there was Roman glass, there was all kinds of trash and bones and just everything in this, right? And we think what happened was back in 70 AD when Jerusalem got leveled again, right, by Titus. This whole thing got leveled out. We think everything just got thrown into this pool and eventually got buried over time. But there's a char line about a foot thick of burn material. And that's the reason we think that is because when Jerusalem got destroyed in 70 AD, everything got burned, and there's char line is there, and that kind of proves that theory that's that was probably during that time period. After that, though, from about 4 foot up to the ground surface, there's nothing. There's nothing there, which means over that time period, nothing happened during that time. But it's interesting. About 30 to 40 feet under Jerusalem, under the streets, there's all kinds of things going on. There's tunnels, there's caves, and I was part of a team that went to excavate the Tower of Siloam. This is near the Pool of Siloam, but this is called the Tower of Siloam. And there were 2 towers that went into the original city, and so. Just like I said, you don't walk into the temple. When you entered a city during that time period, you just didn't, take your camel and ride into the city. You had to go through gates,
right, and entrance,
and fortified
gates. Sure, absolutely,
and more than one,
right.
And these towers served as guard towers for the part of the entryway into the city of David. And one of these towers fell, and we found the towers, but you're under the streets of Jerusalem. And everything's going on up top, but you're underground digging. It is really, really, really neat.
So share during this particular dig. We're going to move on because there's so many things we need to cover tonight. But you're there. What was what's the one standout thing that you did find? Was there a particular artifact, piece of pottery, plate, mosaics? What was the cool thing?
Well, the cool thing was found in the actual tower. That thing, one of them was still standing up. The other one had crumbled and fallen down. Tons and tons of rock material out of limestone. And underneath that, we found pottery and all kinds of things. One of the things we did find was gold inlaid tile.
Oh, yeah.
Gold inlaid tile. Now that's not very often you find something like that, but when you find something, it's like, wow. And
now, what are the rules as an archaeologist? What are the rules? What I mean is, are you ever tempted, to slip something in your pocket? Do you guys have an unwritten rule that, what? Because you could be alone, 50 yards away doing your thing, and, you find some old gold coin or, are you ever tempted? And do you guys have that unwritten rule that, hey, man, you know what? We got to turn it all in?
Well, there's a code of conduct. There's an ethical code of conduct. Had you find something like that and say it was a gold coin, and you put it in your pocket and you took it home, then that information's lost to everyone because you don't know what it is, you don't know anything about it, and it's not made public. It's not thrown into the general knowledge bank.
Right.
And so it gets lost again because it goes in someone's private collection. Now, I have a lot of things in my office, a lot of artifacts, but most of them are museum-grade replicas, because there's only one original.
Right.
See, and the one original has to stay where it is. Now, there are some things that I was able to take back with the permissions of the Israeli Antiquity Authority, and it's just stuff they don't want. And so, with those permissions, they give you a little card, and you go through customs, and you show them your card, and then, okay, everything's okay. But it's nothing important like coin or Roman glass or the gold inlay tile. That all gets cataloged, and as it gets cataloged, it gets numbered, named, the site, date, etc. And then that goes to the local archaeologist in charge of that dig. And so there's an authority over that and a chain of custody that's maintained. Have people done that? I'm sure.
Oh, no. I just lost Aaron. Okay. All right. I'll get him back right now. Unbelievable. This is Fade to Black, bespoke radio for the masses. I'll get it back. Don't worry about it. I'll be back right after this. Follow us on Twitter @JChurchRadio. That's what you want to do. #F2B. Come hang out in the sandbox. I'll be back right after this. Stay with us.
Way out here, we listen to Jimmy Church.
You're listening to Fade to Black.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Yo soy Mario Carson, el tiburón, y los invito para que escuchen a mi buen amigo Jimmy Church Radio. ¡Claro que sí!
Oi, oi, I'm Reese Evans. You're listening to Jimmy Church. This is Revolution. The revolution will not be televised. The revolution is on radio. Ciao.
No fear. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. We are with Dr. Aaron Judkins. He's back. No big deal. Shoot us an email to jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Any questions for Aaron, you can do that there. You can go over to the contact page at jimmychurchradio.com. You can fire us off an email there. Just make it good. Make the question smart. It'll get past the producers here and make its way into me. You can also go #F2BQ in TweetDeck and shoot me questions off there. There you go. All right, Aaron, are you still with us?
I am here.
Yeah, that was weird, huh? Click.
Yeah, it really was. I don't know.
It's the way it goes. It is. When you go against the grain, man, you go against the man, you got to deal with it, and that's it, man. You're a mover and a shaker. Now, you know what? That was a good point to actually take a break. We're at the top of the hour anyway, so let's talk about Noah's Ark. And before we get into your movie, and I can't wait to talk about that, but let's back up a step. when you go on the internet, and I have done this ad nauseum, I have done my best to see what's out there about Noah's Ark. A lot of it is not correct, is it?
No.
Why is that? Why is that?
Well, it depends on what you talk about. You know, I think probably the biggest statement that I get from people is that, hey, why are you searching for Noah's Ark when it's already been found?
Right.
And I have an answer for that. And here it is. Back in the 1970s, a man by the name of Ron Wyatt was convinced that he knew where Noah's Ark was. Now, this goes back to a 1960 Time article that came out, and it's a photograph that one of the NATO generals, as he was doing flyovers and aerial photography, photographed, this region over by Mount Ararat. And as he was going through the photos, he noticed something that looked like in the shape of a boat. And so he said, well, 1960 Time magazine picked that up. Ron Wyatt, fast forward, found that article and wanted to go investigate to see if this was Noah's Ark. Now, he, over time, convinced some geologists that indeed this was the thing, and convinced the government of Turkey to build a museum and plant their flag and say this is Noah's Ark, and then you have to, you pay a little fee to go and see it. And that's what happened.
Well,
now,
and let me jump in. The thing that that caused that photograph did not go away, and it caused a lot of media stir for a long time, 10, 15 years. To this day, actually, it's a very famous photograph. But we couldn't get permission then from Turkey to fly back over the mountain with our U-2s to take additional photographs. Am I correct in that? And that added to the mystery too as well?
Well, I don't know about the U-2s. I do know that back in the 80s, NASA, through one of their satellites, took a photo of Mount Ararat. Now, geopolitically, that's a very unstable region.
It still is, yes.
And it still is. I know from firsthand, what goes on that mountain. You have Iran, and you have Syria, and you have Russia, and then you have the Turkish military, and then you have the Kurds
and Armenia, and you can't take Armenia out of the mix.
Well, you can't. So you have all these factors, and back in the 80s, NASA photographed Ararat, Greater Ararat. And there's Greater and there's Lesser Ararat right next to it. And on their photo, they circled anomaly on Ararat. That was classified until later on. We were able to have that photo declassified, and we were able to look at it. I know a man who's retired out of the Marines, and he used to brief President Reagan in the 80s. And he would brief him on classified information regarding photograph. He was the man that you wanted to look at photographs and tell me how many people are here, what is this, what are they, and that was the guy. And that's what he did. Well, one day he was waiting on his commander to go through photographs, and his commander was running a little late, and he said, well, I thought I would just start, just kind of flipping through some of these photographs and just kind of getting a feel for what they are. And he came across one, and it said anomaly on Ararat. And he goes, what is that doing in here? And he kind of put it to the side and started flipping through some others. And then he went, and then he pulled it back over, and he was looking at it. And then his commander walked in, and from over the back of his shoulder took it and just and took it out of his hands. And he said, what are you looking at? He said, nothing, sir. He said, you're right. And I said, what do you think that was? He said, it looked like a ship. but it was labeled anomaly on Ararat. Now, that photo's since been declassified, but there has been credible reports of a structure being on Greater Ararat. And I'm talking from people such as, Colonel Jim Irwin, that was on Apollo 15, 8th man to walk on the moon. And Colonel Irwin, when he was in the military, said he flew over a structure on Ararat, and the question mark in the back of his mind was so great. When he retired out of the military and NASA, he spent the rest of his life, guess what? Looking for Noah's Ark on Greater Ararat. And he spent about 6 or 7 climbs up that mountain, nearly lost his life on one of the expeditions. But he was firmly convinced he flew over something. And so we have a lot of credible reports from people such as Colonel Irwin, from the satellite information from NASA and things like this, that something's on Greater Ararat. So how does this tie into the Ron Wyatt Durandapar site that people say that's the Noah's Ark? That's 30 miles away across the valley up kind of another mountain. I went to that site, and I looked at that site firsthand. And even the camera team, who have untrained eyes, when they looked at it, they said, this is no way. I said, well, let's give it a good look over. And it does have a general shape and length. It's kind of a diamond shaped, but no actual excavation has been done on the site. Now Ron did some GPR, ground penetrating radar, and he claims to have found metal rivets and wood beam structures underneath, but there's no actual excavation being done. The problem is since 1970s, independent geologists and archaeologists have gone to that same site, and they have said it's not Noah's Ark. It is a natural formation, a natural geological formation. It's a mud push up, and that's all it is. That doesn't mean that people throughout the years and eons of time haven't used that as some kind of fortification or defensive position or whatever. It just means that it's not a boat. And I came to the same conclusion when I was there. This is not a boat. It has a very similar shape, kind of a diamond shape. That's not at all the description of Noah's Ark given in the ancient writings, by the way. Roughly kind of the same length, but that's it.
When you walk up to the edge of that formation, now look, I've looked at those photographs so many times and videos and squinted my eyes and tried to imagine it being a boat. Granted, if it's there, it's thousands, if not 10,000s of years old. We don't know. But I don't see it as being a boat. When you go up to the wall, the edge, what is it actually? Is that wood or is it rock?
No, it's rock. It's rock with dirt. And that rock is created from a natural mud up push, and I'm not a geologist, but that's how they explain it. And when you look at Google Earth over that whole region, you'll see many more of those, some smaller, but you'll see those kind of all over that area. It's not a boat. If it was, I would have been the first one to say, you know what, boys, we found it. This is it. Ron Wyatt found it. He was right. I'm not climbing that mountain at 17,000 feet because there's no need to. This is it. So y'all have fun. I'm staying here, but it wasn't. And I was really disappointed because I had heard about this for a very long time, but the geologists and archaeologists who have independently gone to try to confirm this have not been able to confirm it at all. And I came to the same conclusion. So there are Ron Wyatt fans who hold fast to that as the truth, that's it. And you know what? That's okay. I'm that's okay if they want to believe that. But I don't think that's it. I think it's on Greater Ararat, some 30 miles away. And people like Colonel Irwin and NASA and other credible people who have seen something on that mountain, I think it's over there. So that's where I'm looking.
What about some of the videos of the inside of Noah's Ark that are on YouTube. What do you make of that stuff?
Okay, I know. I can tell you about that. Back in 2010, the Chinese were building. They were building a life-size Noah's Ark in Hong Kong. Okay, and they hired a local Kurd over there to try to get them to find Noah's Ark, and they paid this local Kurd a great deal of money. Now, if you're Kurdish, a new pair of shoes is a big deal.
Sure.
They're not materialistic by any means. These are very humble people who live a very simple life, and they enjoy it. And they are great people to be around. They were some of the best people. But this Kurd was paid a lot of money. And when the Chinese said, hey, we're coming over, he had to do something because they've been paying him and there's no results. So he produced results. And what happened is that some 6 months or so, we think, prior to their arrival, at about 14,000 feet up, near one of the high camps, by the way, where I camped, there's a little alcove. And he hired some Kurds to go up there, and they carried wood and built a set in that alcove. He took photographs and sent it back to the Chinese and said, look what I found. And it wasn't until later that one of the local Kurds he hired to help him carry wood up there and build a set turned on him and said, I know the truth of the thing. One of our colleagues that's on our team is Dr. Randall Price. And Dr. Price is well known, established in the field. He's very famous for the Qumran Dead Sea Scroll expeditions in Israel.
Right.
A very well-respected man in the field. And Dr. Price went up there, and that was a set. It was a hoax. And because of that, Dr. Price removed himself from part of that team and then said, hey, I've been there. This whole thing is a hoax. And basically, the Chinese really wanted a section of wood from the Ark. How neat would that be to have a section of wood to go on your newly built Noah's Ark Museum in Hong Kong?
Exactly.
And so our team debunked that back in 2010. I remember when that story broke, Jimmy, because I picked up the phone and made a call. And I said, how come I'm hearing this on the news media and no one called me? And they said, well, here's the story. And so that's the backstory. It was a hoax.
Now, is the Wyatt, you're the expert. I'm so glad I get to ask these questions because you can't really research this. It's so hard to get definitive information on Noah's Ark. Is the Wyatt location the location from the satellite photograph that was taken in 1960?
Yes.
It is the same location. And in 1960, there was an ice flow there, right? Wasn't there ice? Wasn't Noah's Ark like covered in snow? Or the Noah's Ark, the anomaly was covered in snow?
Not that I know of, not that it couldn't be, but typically that area is not under ice. Now, that it's not to say that there couldn't be a snowfall there, but there's no glaciers there. In other words, the only glaciers that are permanently anywhere is on top of Greater Ararat.
Right.
Those are permanent glaciers, and there's some 200 glaciers, I think, they're up to about 200 feet thick. And so that's the only ice cap that is there, but none around that site.
This was just tweeted. This is the $1 million question everybody has. How can you fit so many animals on such a small boat anyway? What's the deal with that? I understand DNA and all of the modern hypothesis behind that, but how is that possible?
Okay, let me try to answer this in a very simple way, because that was a question I had. How could all these animals fit on the Ark? We all know the story. The animals went on 2 by 2, right? But did you know that those were the unclean animals? The clean animals went on by 7. Did you know that?
Nope.
Okay, well, there you are. The clean animals went on by 7. The ancient writings said that the animals who breathe life through their nostrils went on the ark. It doesn't mean that every life form went on the ark. The fish in the sea and the whales and the dolphins and all those didn't go on the ark. The insects, I don't know if they went on or not, but the argument is they have an exoskeleton and they breathe through their skeleton, not through their nostrils, so they probably didn't go on the ark. The point is that when you ask people, well, how do you know? Because how big was the ark? And they can't tell you. And you say, well, if you don't know how big the ark is, how can you ever draw a conclusion that all the animals couldn't fit on the ark? Because you don't even know anything about it.
Right.
It's a logical question, but it's an illogical conclusion that they make because it's a straw man argument. So here's some numbers for you. When you say, well, how long is the ark? How big is it? The ancient writing says this: it's 300 cubits long, 50 cubits wide, 30 cubits high. Now you have to ask the question, what is a cubit? Now, the cubit is a standard of measurement. It did change throughout history depending on who the ruling monarch or pharaoh or king was. If you were using the royal cubit, that royal cubit could be the length of the ruling monarch, his forearm from the elbow to the fingertip, whatever that was, or it could be the length of his firstborn son. So the royal cubit could change quite frequently depending on who's ruling.
Okay,
The standard cubit,
I'm feeling 6 feet would be fair.
well, the standard cubit is known. It was 18 inches. We know this from archaeology in Israel. When they dug the Hezekiah's tunnel, they dug from one end straight through limestone underground, and they started on one end. Another team started on another end, and they met in the middle. How they did it, I don't know, but they did a little kind of a plaque thing at the end of it, and they used an 18-inch cubit. And so we know for sure that the standard cubit was 18 inches. So let's go with 18 inches just to be simple. And if you go by 18 inches, you're looking at an ark that's about 475 feet long. Some say upwards to 500 or 525, depending if you stretch that cubit out to a royal cubit. Some 75 feet high, 50 feet wide. That is big enough. If you just go by the standard cubit, that's big enough. Get this, it's about the equivalent of 522 railroad stock cars. That's the kind of space you have in there.
Right.
And if you have animals, not full-grown ones, by the way, but the average size of an animal is about the size of a sheep. And you factor in the average size, okay? This is the median average. Not the full growns. You just need a pink one and a blue one to go on, right?
Right.
And so if you do that, you factor in this is about 8 freight trains with 65 carriages each, and it's estimated by mathematicians that before I tell you that, let me tell you this. You also have to factor in the difference between a species and kinds. Because you don't take every species of everything on. You just need 2 of the kinds.
You're
so
right.
in other
Not
words,
every
you don't need
species of cat.
Exactly.
Right.
You just need 2 of the kinds. You need a pink one and you need a blue one.
Right.
But you need the kinds. And so you factor in the kinds. Some say that number is 16,000 kinds of animals who breathe air and life through their nostrils. Some say that was 17,500 kinds. But you do that and you work the math with the space with the 18-inch cubit, and mathematicians say that the ark was only about less than 50% capacity, less than 50%. If you take the animal at the sheep-sized animal, not the great big ones, you just need the juveniles. Do we know that for sure? No, we don't know. But logically, that would be the thing that makes sense. You don't need all the species. You don't need the fish of the sea and the whales We do know birds were on the ark because those birds, we know that the raven was released and a dove was released. So we know birds were on the ark. But how do they survive? Well, it could be that they went into hibernation. We don't know all those answers. We just don't have enough of the facts, enough of the details about what happened and how all that happened. We just know what we know from what we've been given. And my job as an archaeologist is to try to scientifically confirm and empirically confirm if there's a structure on Greater Ararat. That's my job. And if we find something like that, how great would that be? So that's part of the reason I'm going and doing these things, because if we can prove something like that, and look, we would open the thing up for independent verification without a doubt.
Sure.
Here we are. This is what we have.
Sure.
And let the evidence speak for itself.
How the ark that you just described, the 8 freight train ark, how much larger is that than the Wyatt anomaly?
The Wyatt anomaly is roughly, I'm trying to remember. It's roughly like 500 feet long. It has very rough dimensions, but the height is not there and the width is not there. Just the length only. And again, it's kind of a diamond shaped. There's all kinds of red flags about this. Ron made a lot of claims, and look, when you're an archaeologist, Ron was an amateur archaeologist, and he made a lot of claims. Noah's Ark was just one of them. He made many more.
Oh,
Found
yes,
the Ark
he
of
did.
The Covenant.
Yes.
Look, how great of a legacy would that be to find not only Noah's Ark, but to find everything else of the Holy Grails of archaeology, and you found it.
Well, I've watched all
I have
the
a problem with that.
Aaron, I've watched all the videos of him digging and digging and digging and digging. All of the Ark videos. I've watched them all, and he's a fascinating guy too. He's
sure.
He's well spoken and he's he's steadfast. He's steadfast in his belief, and you're absolutely right. He has got a lot of people that stand behind him.
And the people on our team knew him when he was alive. And there's a museum dedicated to his work. And, and he did some good work. I'm not saying that he didn't. A matter of fact, the work that he did on the Exodus crossing, I think, was fantastic.
Yes.
And there's some things that I'm thinking, wow, okay, you're onto something here. I'm liking what I'm seeing. But unfortunately, Ron passed away. And that work never really got picked back up as far as I know. But he snuck into Saudi Arabia with his son after being denied entrance. And they just snuck in.
Yes.
And they got caught.
Yes.
And he was days away from, like execution stuff.
Yes,
the State Department stepped in. But he took some risk. But
have you seen the video of him digging underneath that house in Jerusalem for the ark?
No, I haven't.
Oh, man. And you watch the video at the beginning, and the hole is just starting to be dug. It's in a backyard, and they're protected by walls. And you just know that if anybody in Israel knew what he was doing, the proverbial poop would hit the fan, right?
Oh, it would.
Yes.
It would.
And he digs this tunnel. He is like hundreds of feet. And he's down at the bottom. He's covered in dirt. It's like a year later, and he's digging and digging. On the other side of this wall, right here, is the ark. I know it. And he's down there with a jackhammer.
The Ark of the Covenant. There's a difference between that and the Ark of the Covenant is what he was looking for.
No, the Ark of the Covenant. Yeah. But anyway, and he's down there, man, with a jackhammer and a light, a work light hanging from the ceiling. And so claustrophobic, too. And I'm just thinking, you are just insane. But like I said, he was steadfast in his belief. He took chances. He really did. He took chances.
And he did. And there's some things about Ron that you think, wow, I don't know. But there are a couple of things that I like about Ron's work. And I'm not saying it's all bad. I'm just saying I disagree with his finding of the Noah's Ark location. And I've been there and I've looked at that and I've studied it over and over and over. And it's not as bad as I want it to be. It's just not it.
Right. I just sent you, I don't know if you're watching Twitter, but I sent you some of the, somebody tweeted the ice cap on Ararat and where those anomalies are too in the ice. You know what, not to change gears totally, but what do you think about those, the shape of an apparent ship in the ice? Were you able to go and check that out?
No, but I will. You're talking on Greater Ararat?
Yes.
That may be that anomaly I was talking about that NASA photographed. I think that's probably what you're talking about, and yes, that is of interest. It's a very difficult area to get to. As a matter of fact, last summer, I think SpaceX, or who was it? One of the private space enterprises,
right? ULA right.
One of them. They launched a new satellite, and this new satellite is a telescope with a new glass. I think it's 12 inches in diameter, but this satellite has a capability of picking up texture, and it can tell the difference between rock, between cement, between gravel and ice and wood. And this was launched last summer. So I'm very eager to see if they're going to make a pass over Ararat and take some photos with this, because that would give you detailed information that back, when NASA did their thing, you just didn't get that kind of resolution. This will be able to do it. I'm very anxious to see if that's going to come out.
Well, one of the things that we all question when it comes to Ararat's not all that tall. It's not that it doesn't look that treacherous. Why can't we just go and find it and look and throw a couple of thousand people up there and go and find this thing and put it to bed once and for all? What is stopping us? Is it that treacherous up there?
It is. You're right. It's only 17,000 feet. Only 17,000 feet, and I repeat that for a reason, because this old boy from Texas don't climb to 17,000 feet every day.
Right.
That is a challenge, at the least. The climbing the mountain is one of many challenges on that mountain. First, you have to get permission. Second, that you have to have some kind of an agreement with the people on the mountain that they know you're there, because historically, there's been, military conflict between the Turkish military, the government, and the Kurds, i.e. the PKK, is the freedom fighters for a free Kurdistan. They're fighting for a free Kurdistan, and Turkey is not going to allow a Kurdistan. You see, right. So that's why they're not helping the Kurds now with ISIS and everything's going on. The Kurds are all on the front lines fighting, so they don't get into Turkey. And look, that's a whole different thing. But they have been at odds with each other. The Kurds control that mountain. The PKK control it, and so there's a lot of factors. So is it as easy? On the south side, that's how you go up to the summit. But we're not searching on the south side. If it was there, it would have been found years and years and years ago, because that side is boulders and rocks and boulders. And at about 13,500 feet, you run into the first glaciers. But everything's on the northeast side of the mountain. And what makes it's not the altitude, although it is dangerous, and you are, if you're not an alpinist or a mountaineer, and I aren't one,
right?
I'm not. But people do that for fun. I don't. But on that northeast side, back in 1840, the Ahura Gorge blew out, and it ruptured. And there was a monastery on that northeast side of the mountain at about 7,000 feet, and it was about 200 people living in that monastery prior to 1840, and they said that they had some relics from the Ark in that monastery. When that thing blew, all those people got killed. But it blew out that northeast side of the mountain, and that is deeper than the Grand Canyon. on that side,
Mm-hmm.
deeper than the Grand Canyon. So so how do you do that? If you go from the top, you're talking, 3,000 to 5,000 feet cliffs. That how do you do that? So you really have to go from the bottom, but you got boulders as big as houses. One misstep, rock avalanches, electrical storms are a big nightmare up there. One of our teams several years ago got hit with an electrical storm, and they got hit, and they were out. It nearly killed them. Let me tell you, there is a lot of dangers on that mountain.
Do you think that maybe Turkey doesn't want the Ark found?
Turkey doesn't care about the Ark. They don't care either way. They really have no interest in it. The Kurdish people who live around the area and live on the mountain, they do. They embrace it. It's part of their culture. Especially Armenia on the north side. That used to be Armenia land where Ararat is now.
That is correct.
So they claim that mountain as their own still, even though that it's in Turkey now.
That's right.
That used to be their mountain, and we went into Armenia. It's a fantastic place, by the way. I think it's one of the best kept secrets.
Yes, it is.
If you've never been to Armenia, you really need to go. If you have an interest in traveling, Armenia should be on your next travel list.
Yeah, my family, my immediate in-law family is Armenian, and they are very proud of Mount Ararat and the dispute that is there. They want, well, anyway, that's a whole nother political discussion. But I'll say this: you can get just about any Armenian bottle of wine or things like that right there. Boom, Ararat. It's right there. It's they're very, very proud of it, and
they really are.
They have to stare at that mountain every day too, as well, because it's right there.
Yeah.
Yes,
and it makes a beautiful backdrop. I mean, it is a sight to behold. It really is.
Did you go to the monastery that's in the lake at the base of Mount Ararat? Did you make it out to there?
Yes, I did.
Did you really?
Yes.
Tell me about that. That's one of the oldest monasteries in the world. Period.
I know. And it's still active, by the way.
Yeah, how many months are there? Like 10?
I don't know, but I didn't get to visit with any of them. But they're doing their thing. But I went there, and let me tell you, man, when you go into that thing, there's 15th century monasteries all over Armenia.
Right.
And it's like the real Indiana Jones stuff. You're walking in, and it's Gothic ceilings, and it's dark, and you hear the water dripping in the background, and it's like,
Yeah.
Oh, man, it's great. But this one that you're talking about was really fascinating. The history that you're walking on, that it's still active. They captured St. Gregory. They called him St. Gregory the Illuminator, and he was one of the original missionaries in Armenia. Well, the local guy that was running the thing at the time, I'm talking the local king, had him imprisoned. And there's a dungeon about 30 feet below the floors where you're walking. 30 feet down, there's a hole, and they threw St. Gregory down that hole and imprisoned him for 13 years.
Man.
And I went down that hole.
Oh, no, you didn't.
30 feet down.
Oh.
And let me tell you, it is the darkest place that you'll one of the darkest places that you'll be, because it's all stone lined walls and floor, and that's it. There's nothing else. Nothing else.
Man.
It's for 13 years, this man was in prison. And the only reason he lived, there's a little hole at the top of the thing, and a lady would come by secretly every morning and drop down water and bread to him. And look, there's no bathrooms. There's no nothing. It was bad. It was bad.
Oh,
man. But he got released out of there. And after 13 years, but I went down in there. It gives you chills. It really does.
Did you make it up to Karahunj in Armenia?
No, I didn't. I wanted to, but I did not get to go there.
Now, how close are we to? What do you think? I mean, are we getting close? Are we getting close to solving the Noah's Ark? Look, with Noah's Ark, there's probably two things, well, maybe three. You can throw in the cross and the resurrection. We could throw that event in, but you have Noah's Ark and are we alone in the universe? You know what I mean? Those two questions.
Right.
Noah's Ark, we solved that one, and it's there, and we can and we can close that chapter because everything is answered. And then, of course, we have, are we alone in the universe? How close are we, do you think, to finally putting this Noah's Ark thing to bed?
I think we're close. And the reason I say that is because the expedition we were on was probably the most prolific scientific expedition ever done in the history of Ark research to present day. We threw everything you could throw at it scientifically. And let me tell you, other than the satellites that are shooting down from space, you have to lug everything up to the top of that. And some of the horses can go up to 14,000 feet. Now, of course, we climbed that by foot because you have to acclimate. You go up to the first camp and then the other camp and then the high camp, and that way you acclimate, because if you don't, you get high altitude sickness. You're not going to make it to the summit.
Right.
So you don't go up by horseback, but the horses were packed with the scientific gear that needed to go up to the top. Now, they can only go up to 14,000 feet. From 14 up to 17, everything gets taken off the horses. Thank God, because those horses go through a lot.
Right.
And then it has to go up on foot and on your back. So, of course, a lot of the Kurds helped us with that. But I think we broke the record. We had some 42 pieces of luggage and cases for equipment on that summit.
How many people? How many in the team total?
Well, we had upwards to 25, in and out. We had people coming in and out of the dig team. We were there 6 weeks, so not everyone can stay 6 weeks. So, at any given week, someone would be coming or leaving. And then, of course, we had the film crew, and their job, was to film and document everything. And so we had a lot of people there. But let me tell you, it was a logistical feat to get everything up there, get the team up there, and just to get set up, just to start doing your thing. And that, there was quite a bit of that going on, just logistically trying to get yourself up that mountain. Look, when I saw that mountain, I was there about 4 days, and the summit was socked in. You can't see the summit.
Right.
It's all clouded over. But when I finally saw the summit, and it was a clear, beautiful day, my heart sank because I realized I'm fixing to have to climb this thing. And when you're next to the thing,
right.
You're thinking, oh my goodness, 17,000 feet.
Yeah,
here
right.
we go. Here we go.
How did you fund it? And
well, that's an interesting question.
And how do I know this is two separate answers. How did you get that funded? And then how do you fund your other research, Machu Picchu and if you're going to go to Egypt or Puma Punku or whatever, how do you fund those expeditions?
Let me answer that question first.
Okay.
Historically, I funded it out of pocket with my own dime.
Wow.
The majority of everything that I've done has been, old Maverick saves up his dimes in his pocket, and then I just schedule and I go do those things. Having said that, L.A. Marzulli asked me to come to Peru and study the elongated skulls. And part of that trip was funded for my flight and things like that, my travel. So that trip was picked up, although not every expense, but the majority of it, certainly helped get me there. And my job was to study those elongated skulls. I went down there with Joe Taylor and Chase Kleski, and we had a fantastic time, I have to tell you. But the majority of my trips, Israel, a lot of these things that I've done has been on my own dime. And just because I've wanted to go, and I'm not going to sit back and say, I wish I would have, I could have, I should have, and all that. So I just made it happen at at the expense of okay, now I've got to make it the rest of the year, and you start saving up again. For Mount Ararat, that was a whole different deal, because Ararat, just one season, one expedition, was to the tune of hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Sure,
it's not cheap.
No,
to go do these things. And so when I asked about the funding, they said, well, we're needing, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I said, well, good luck. Call me when you get it, because I certainly don't have that resource. But it just so happened, Jimmy, that it's sometimes not what you know, it's who you know. I didn't know anybody with that kind of money. But I would happen to be talking to some producers about doing a show. This was a couple of years ago. And you asked me earlier if I had a top 10 list or something, and I never had it written down. But one of the producers goes, hey, if you could go anywhere, where do you want to go? Give us a top 10 list. So I wrote it down, and number one was Turkey. And he goes, why do you want to go to Turkey? I said, well, there's an expedition, and this is going to be the last major push for the search for the Ark, and I'm going. Now, I didn't know that I was going, but I was going.
Yeah,
My attitude was, I'm going, I'm there.
Right.
And he said, well, tell me about this. He said, you're kidding, right? And I said, no, sir. He said, tell me. So I did. I said, hey, these guys have been looking. This is the last major push for the Ark. We're close. This is the data that we have. But here's a problem that we're having. He said, what's that? I said, we're needing funding. And so some doors got opened, and producer Brent Baum, who you may know from The Wedding Planner and other movies. Somehow Brent got wind and said, we're interested. And so we had several meetings, and it was decided, we can help you, but we would like to shoot a film. If this is going to be the last thing, we want to be there to document this thing. And so it wasn't, it was through many sources behind the scenes, people I've never met and I don't know. They were anonymous sources that I still don't know, but it takes those people to open those doors for you, that believe in you, that believe in your mission and believe in your vision, and will get behind you and support you. And look, it's a home run, because most of the time you're thinking, you know what, this ain't going to happen. I mean, this is a lot of money. These people, they're not going to do anything. And you have those thoughts going through your mind. But when the thing hit, it's a home run.
Right.
So, and it's just part of getting out there and making, this is where we're at. This is what we need. And,
it sounds like it was a good dose of fate and synchronicity just all rolled into one, and it was meant to happen.
Well, you're right. It really was. It was meant to happen. That's it. I don't know how it did, but it was meant to happen.
Somebody just tweeted, and this is great. This is how smart the Fadernauts are. Can you see Gobekli Tepe from Mount Ararat?
I wish I could have. That was on my agenda when I was there. When I finished up and wrapped up Ararat, I was on my way to Gobekli Tepe. I wanted to go there. Unfortunately, it's about 700 miles away.
Right.
And gas was $10 a gallon.
Well, if you have a car.
If you have a car, now do the math on that. But, again, I was headed there. But at the time, the chemical warfare and attacks, so there was a lot of Syrian refugees fleeing over into Turkey. And Gobekli Tepe is very near the border, I think 20, 25 miles maybe from the border. There's a lot of refugees coming over, and they said it is not safe to go. We recommend you not going. Well, okay, I just, I'm not going to go. So I had to put that on the back burner. But no, you can't see Gobekli Tepe from Mount Ararat. I wish you could. But, there's something interesting, though, that I just thought of. And the reason I like Gobekli Tepe is this. I think there's a tie to Mount Ararat and Noah's Ark to that.
Did you see this? It just flew by on Twitter. What's the connection between... Yeah, right. As you said that, is there a connection between Gobekli Tepe and the Ark?
Yes. I think the answer is yes.
You got to love this show. You got to love Fadernauts.
I think it is.
Yeah. Okay,
Here's
why?
the reason why.
Okay, go.
Okay. There is there's columns that they found at Gobekli Tepe. Not all of it's been excavated, only a very little bit of it. But what they found on these columns were animals, and animals that are not indigenous to that area of the world.
Bingo.
And because of that, I think, I don't know, this is just old Maverick here thinking about it, but look, that could tie back to the Noah's Ark and the animals. And I think maybe it wasn't where people lived. We know that, I think, for certain, but it was some kind of religious center complex. And I think maybe some of that was built as maybe several generations down from Noah. But whatever or whoever did that, I think that may have been a memorial to what happened over there because of those animals. And look, here's something else that really blew my mind, and that was these 18-foot tall beings with wings.
Ding, ding,
in
ding,
human
ding,
form.
ding. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And they have wings on them.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, what is that about?
Right.
That's why I want to go to Gobekli Tepe, because one is because I think there's a tie with the animals, but two, you have to think back not just to Mount Ararat, you have to think back to Mount Hermon and those fallen angels that came down on Mount Hermon, those 200 watchers.
Yep.
And look, those guys were not good. Those were some bad guys. What are these guys with the wings and all that? They're 18 feet tall. Was it the Nephilim?
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea, but there's something going on with that, and I really want to investigate that.
Well, and you have to look at this. The timing of Gobekli Tepe now, 12,000, 12,500. And they're even now possibly reaching another 2,000 years beyond that and suggesting maybe it's 14,500 years old. But that's the Ice Age. And cataclysms and the flood and Noah, and there are so many things that are tied into Gobekli Tepe timing wise. And then you look at the animals, the non-indigenous stuff that is there, and the closer for me with Gobekli Tepe. Well, there's two. I'm going to tell you in just a second, but the first for me, Aaron, on one of those columns, there's a belt buckle. And that belt buckle, on where you see the hands wrapping around, the arms, and they're kind of clasped at the front. Well, right below those hands is a frigging belt buckle. Now,
I didn't know that.
Yes,
I didn't know that.
Now, you go, Google it. Gobekli Tepe belt buckle. Now,
okay.
Explain to me how 7,000 years before man was still living in caves, no farming, nothing, no metallurgy, nothing, no Bronze Age, nothing like that has happened yet. And you want to go 7,000 years before that, and we're talking about high fashion, a belt buckle.
Wow.
A belt buckle. Explain that to me.
I have no idea on that.
Okay, watch
really
this. Watch Twitter. Somebody please post the Gobekli Tepe belt buckle for Aaron. Check that out. And I just want some Orthodox archaeologists to explain that. The ones that go, you're not giving enough credit to man. Man was really smart. Well, you know what? 12,500 years ago, I don't think your man that you're talking about was dealing with designer clothing and wanting to.
Jimmy, if it says Texas on it, I'm going to be okay with that. You
know what? I think it says Elvis. Actually, it's like that though. It's a belt buckle, and there's no question about what you're looking at. Because you can see the clothes. You can, it's a person, and it's a belt buckle. It's a belt. It's a belt with a belt buckle. It's a crazy thing.
I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting for it to come across.
Okay, it'll be up here in just a second. Yeah, Gobekli Tepe to me. Now this is okay. There's two other things I meant to touch upon. Number two is every time I say Gobekli Tepe on this show, the Fadernauts have to drink. Okay, so now that's what's going on in Twitter. Okay, there it is. Do you see it? Are you looking?
I'm looking.
Did you copy Aaron on this? Tweet it to Aaron. It's blowing by here. We tweet so many tweets in a night. Let me copy
Yeah,
you
no, I
on
did
this.
get it.
Okay, I'm going to copy. You got to love live radio. All right, Aaron. There you go. Boom, bam, blip. There it is. Check it out. That, my friend, is a belt buckle. Now, just explain that. And look at the H. You know, this close-up that you're looking at, you see the hands?
I'm seeing it now.
Okay. See the hands? Now, that's the 18-foot column, right? There's the arms coming around, and there's the belt at the waist, and right on the front is a belt buckle.
It sure does look like it.
No, that's what it is. There's no question about it. And then look at the H and the carving. Obviously it's a Hermes, designer belt. but just explain that. I just want to know, why you can't have it both ways. Either man was living in caves and scrounging for seeds in the dirt, trying to feed their family every single day, or we had intelligence. And when you look at Gobekli Tepe and the 3D reliefs, and these carvings are not into the stone; these are reliefs out in 3D.
Bas reliefs.
Yes, this is art. This is vision. This is not what was supposed to be going on planet Earth. And if this is going on in Gobekli Tepe, how many more of these do we not know about? How many sites
that's interesting.
Yeah, Gobekli Tepe wasn't supposed to exist. Nothing was supposed to exist.
Yeah, I think
before.
A farmer was plowing his field and hit something,
That's
rock
right.
or something.
Well,
That's
he
how
hit
they
it.
found it.
He hit it season after season, and he got tired of it, and he went out and started to chip away, which is one of these columns at the top, and you can see the top of one of the columns that's there is the one that he was, whacking away.
Oh, no, he was wailing away at it.
Well, you can't blame him. He had crops, to grow.
And he probably just gave up.
Well, no, so that's when they figured out that it was actually it wasn't ending, right? It was like,
right.
And
yeah.
that's when he called in the university to come out and take a look at it. They had been aware of the rock for a while and possibly the site, but it was just there. It was there for a long time, and it was just ignored. The site itself, there wasn't a lot of funding up there for archaeology. There's lots of other things to go and look at, and they just kind of ignored it. And finally, this farmer took it upon himself to dig this. He thought he was digging the rock out, and he kept going down and was like, oh, wait a minute. No, this is something else. And that's when the university was called in to investigate. But yeah, you're absolutely right. We stumbled, literally plowed over Gobekli Tepe. But look at that belt buckle, and
that's amazing.
That to me is the one thing that I want to answer now. And then let me get to my third point, and I want you to comment on this. I think, and one of the listeners to the show made this comment maybe about a year ago, and I never forgot what they said. That maybe because Gobekli Tepe was deliberately filled, right? It was deliberately filled with garbage and rocks and then leveled off. We know that. Maybe it's a time capsule. Maybe it's a museum. Maybe it's a representation of what was going on back then, just like you said with the Ark. Okay, and you have the animals here. Maybe that has something to do with it as well. Maybe they just wanted to preserve it, and that's why it was deliberately filled in, so that we could find out later what they were up to 12,000 years ago.
It's an interesting concept. I don't know why they would build all that and then cover it up and leave. That's a mystery. We may never know. We may know. Part of that is that this whole site at Gobekli is not fully excavated. Only a small percentage of it has been excavated. So there's still things that we don't know about Gobekli that may yet come to light in the future. I would love to go there and do some work on that site. I really would. Like looking at this belt buckle that we're looking at here. I would like to look around the other side of that and look at this column and figure out, in context, what is this thing?
Look at the picture that Barrett just sent. Okay, let me. Okay, now you can see the whole belt buckle here. You guys, you have to copy Aaron on this. Oh no, he did. Okay, look, go and look now, and look at the one that Barrett just sent, and you can see how the belt wraps all the way around. It's a smaller thumbnail, but you can see the belt.
Yeah. No, I got it. Yeah.
Okay, and all you have to do is just make a request, Aaron. Fader knots, I need more. I need the whole column. Okay, next. Next, we need the whole column. We need the whole thing.
Yeah.
And we need the backside of the column. Come on, what are you guys waiting on? Okay, there you go. Yeah, and they've got 2 or 3 of these sites dug up, or maybe 5 now, but there are 25 that are there. That's insane. We have no idea.
We don't. We really don't. That's why that is really important. That reminds me that when I went to Egypt and saw the pyramids for the first time, you're in awe. I mean, obviously.
Sure.
But the fact is that only 1% of Egypt has been excavated. That means 99% is still under the sands.
That's right. That's right.
That blew me away when I heard that from Egyptologists. I thought, what? 99% is still under the sand. So there's a lot in archaeology that we still don't know.
This is Fade to Black on the Dark Matter Radio Network. We are talking with Dr. Aaron Judkins. You can follow us on Twitter right now at JChurchRadio. Hashtag F2B is the sandbox. Aaron, look at the pictures flying by. Check these out. Are you guys getting Aaron in on these? Yes, you are. Okay, good. And then if you have any questions for Aaron, hashtag F2BQ. And I've got to say, the questions are flying by. I'm going to bang out a couple really quick. Let's see. Is it possible the flood helped cover up sites like Gobekli Tepe?
Maybe. I don't know. I think Gobekli was probably later, but the dating is in conflict with that statement because they're giving it an older date. So I just don't know. Certainly, that may be true for other sites around the world. That may be true for Atlantis.
Sure.
So there's things that certainly I think that would qualify for that. I don't know about Gobekli though. That's a hard one because the dating for Gobekli Tepe and the dating for the event for Noah's Ark, there's a gap there.
What's the accepted date in archaeology for the flood and Noah's Ark?
Well, you're looking at, if you go back and use the ancient historical accounts, the writings in the Old Testament, you're looking at about 4,500 years ago. But if you go back to the Babylonian accounts in Samaria, we're talking the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Sumerian Kings List and the Epic of Atrahasis. These things go back to, 1150 BC, 1635 BC, 2100 BC. So, and you're actually getting into much older dates if you're using this point. But it's hard to know the timeline on these things because stone isn't organic. You can't carbon-14 stone. You have to use other ways to try to date these things.
Right.
And dates can change. So one of the things we would love to do with the Ark is if we found significant portions that we could carbon-14 date the wood or whatever that's organic matter, that would kind of help us nail down a time frame. But time frames can change. A perfect example of that is Egypt. The timeline for Egypt's history is all over the place. There's a huge controversy on the timeline of Egypt. And if you go by the old standard chronology, I mean, you got these dynasties running back to back. But we think now that some of those dynasties ran concurrently, a king, a pharaoh of the north, and a pharaoh of the south ruling at the same time, and that would shorten the timeline of the 15th, 16th, and possibly the 17th dynasties of Egypt concurrently, and that would shrink that timeline down somewhat. So, and then of course you would have to shift all the pharaohs and everything over. So, it's a very difficult thing to try to get timelines when you're using these things, but it can give you some clues, and that's what we have to work on, and that's what you just go with until you get some hard evidence.
Let's change gears to Giza. I'm going to start here, actually. Ancient aliens and the theory. Do you subscribe to that at all? And what do you think the age of the pyramids are? The Great Pyramid.
Oh, Jimmy.
Yeah, let's go there, man. Fly a mission,
let's
Aaron.
go there.
Yes.
The age of the pyramids. I don't know, to be honest. I could give you a guess, but it would just be my guess. I don't know. I think what we do know is from Dr. Robert Schoch, who did a lot of work on the Sphinx. And he concluded that the Sphinx is much older than what was said to be, and that there's water erosion on the Sphinx. There's so much we don't know yet about that. How old are they? I think they were around. It's hard to say. Were they around before the flood or not? I don't know.
Okay. Hold on. Let me help you. Do you think they were built 3,500 BC?
There's a good chance that they were. It depends on what time frame that you're using based on history, but certainly they could have been. Now,
okay. Well, you know what? I'm going to toe the rope here. Do you think they could have been built 10,000 years ago? Do you think Do you think that when the Upper and Lower Egypt came together, that the pyramids were already there and they had nothing to do with it?
Well, that's an interesting point, because yes, I think the pyramids were there already, but look, we know that the pyramids were not burial chambers. I climbed in the Great Cheops pyramid. I climbed inside of that thing and went into the king's chamber.
Right.
And look, there's an empty sarcophagus there, but there's nothing otherwise that gives you any evidence that was Egyptian. In other words, there's no hieroglyphics.
There's no hieroglyphic.
There's nothing in there. It's granite walls. It's an empty granite room. And what was that thing? When I wrote the book, I co-authored with my colleague Dr. Mike McDaniel a book called Alien Agenda: The Return of the Nephilim, and
yes.
we touched base on this in the book. I think the pyramids were not burial chambers. I think they were probably the original name. They didn't call them pyramids back then. There was an abbreviated term, PERNET, PERNRT, something like that, and basically that term meant fire in the middle.
That's what my wife calls me. That's strange.
You have to ask yourself, what is fire?
What is that? Right.
In the middle.
Sure.
And so was it some kind of, other thing that, some say that was some kind of, an electrical generating plant. Some say that it was a burial chamber. I don't think it was a burial chamber. But that's me. But I think, yes, that they were there when Upper and Lower Egypt was running and the peak of its day. I think they were there. The funny thing is that the pyramids evolved over time. We know that in Saqqara, in Memphis, in Egypt, not Memphis, Tennessee, in Memphis, Egypt, the pyramids over there are not true pyramidal form like you see in the Giza complex. They are stepped pyramids. and they're very poor condition, mostly because of time. But the pyramids were built differently. They are not the same. The matter of fact, there's one called the bent pyramid, where they didn't get the angle right, and it kind of bent up towards the top, and they angled it up, and that's called the bent pyramid. And they were stepped pyramids. Something was different about these. And here's something that a lot of people don't know. The pyramids didn't originate in Egypt. The pyramids originated in Mesopotamia as stepped pyramids. They were called ziggurats, and they were stepped pyramids.
And they're all over the place.
Yeah, they are. They originated in Mesopotamia.
Whoa. Are you back with us?
I'm here.
Okay. You know what? Let's take a break. I'm going to reset that connection. Wow. Talk to me. Talk to me, Aaron.
I am here.
Okay, you're back. Yeah, you went alien on us. That sounded crazy. Well, okay, so if the pyramids were already there when Upper and Lower Egypt finally were joined, then that takes any pharaoh out of the mix, to certainly Cheops and Khufu, taking them out of the mix for building the pyramids. And
it said that Khufu was built one of the pyramids.
But this is the question. Doesn't that go against everything that you've been taught as an archaeologist, and making those kinds of statements? Does that make you Maverick? Does that make you a rebel? And what do your archaeologist buddies say to you when you make those kind of statements, when you go out on the limb?
Yeah, it is out of the box. That's for sure. It is not an accepted position in mainstream archaeology. I'm not saying I'm right. I do reserve the right to be wrong on that, because I just don't know for sure. But sometimes you have to think out of the box to be able to get answers, and that's why I like doing what I do, because I'm not boxed in to say I have to think this way, I have to believe this way, I'm forced into this position, and I can't think on my own. And part of that, there's nothing wrong with the accepted educational institutions of learning to try to understand our past. That's not all bad. I'm saying, though, that there are questions, there's gaps, and there's things we don't know. And the forbidden history, the taboo history, the forbidden archaeology, as I like to call it, is not put on the table for discussion. It's ignored. And to me, I want to talk about those things. Let's put that subject on the table and let's discuss it, because there's something that we're overlooking. And if you're not able to discuss it, then what are we ever going to know about the thing? We have to be able to at least be able to discuss all angles. And whether they're right or wrong, it's okay, but we need to be able to at least discuss a thing.
Exactly. And when you walk around, you go to Dendera, or you walk around Luxor, you go to all of these, religious sites in Egypt, which is floor to ceiling, head to toe, left to right, hieroglyphics, and everything is marked and cataloged, and the stories are told. But the two greatest things, or the three greatest, right there in Giza, these pyramids don't have one bit of writing or descriptions. The two most so cool. The Great Pyramid is so amazing that they couldn't duplicate it. There's only one. There's only one.
Right.
And if it took 25 years to build, why not build two? Why aren't there 10? That's because they didn't build it. It was already there. And if they did build it, and I'm sorry, if I'm Khufu, I put Khufu in some pretty big bold letters on that sarcophagus.
I'm sure you would.
Well, that's what they did. I mean, they peed on their territory everywhere. I mean, am I wrong? Am I wrong? Look at the sizes of those statues and inscriptions. It just boggles the mind. And yet, as an archaeologist, when you look at that, Isn't it? It's kind of like a paradox, and it doesn't make any sense. And so, why aren't they trying to figure that out?
Well, I think there are people that are like myself, like Dr. Robert Schock and others who are in the field. I think we are. We're looking at that. It's a handful of us, but there are people that are trying to answer those things, and good people with different theories. I don't believe every one of them, but you have to at least look at the thing and say, okay, well, let's look at this theory. Let's see what we can learn from this. And that's a part of science. You start with a hypothesis, you move to theory, and if the theory is valid and it passes the scientific method, and it's testable, repeatable, observable, predictable, and more importantly, falsifiable. If you can't falsify it, then it moves into law. And that's where we get our laws from. The first law of thermodynamics, the second law of thermodynamics. Those are laws because it happens the same way every time. It's predictable, it's provable, it's something that we can know. And that's part of science. We need to be able to at least theorize about these things. When I stood next to the pyramids for the first time, the Great Pyramid, I realized how small I was.
Yeah, completely insignificant.
Oh my goodness. How did they do this? And look, after being in the field for all these years now, I realized one thing, that the things that I had learned traditionally were not adding up to the things I was finding in the field. And they just weren't. In archaeology, things spring up. They're advanced, they're sudden, they're complex, they have advanced knowledge, they have advanced capability, and it goes against the grain of everything that we've been taught in archaeology. Why is that? Why do they spring up? These guys were smart. These guys
very
their
smart.
Stuff.
Right.
They really did. I mean, we have forgotten, Jimmy, over the eons of time. Albert Einstein used to say we only use 10% of our brain. I think them people back then were close to using, 75%, 80%? Who knows? But they were using much, much more of their brain power. These people were smart. I mean, the Egyptians had slide rules. They had squares. They had plumb bobs. They knew algebra and geometry, and they knew complex mathematics. They knew what they were doing.
They did. And what Orthodox archaeology wants me, Jimmy Church, to sit here and absorb and accept is that, 3500 BC, when the rest of the world, like I said, was, walking around as cavemen, that suddenly in Egypt, they had the technology to build that thing a tenth of a degree off of true north to level 13 acres of rock that would support that pyramid and build it. Now, there's much more to the story than that, but when you look at the White House that is supposed to be built to true north, we're off by 2 degrees. So don't tell me that those guys didn't have some kind of help, or it was built much, 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 much before by a civilization that came and went. You
have to ask the question: did they have help from an outside agency? Was it those watcher angels that came down on Mount Hermon? We know that in the Book of Enoch and other books that they were introducing forbidden knowledge to mankind. And look, they got into a lot of trouble over that. That's where we get the Nephilim from, the giants of old, those men of renown who stood, King Og and Goliath, who stood 9, 13, 15 foot tall, maybe taller.
Right.
We know this in archaeology, that Goliath existed on pottery shards that was found in the area of Gath in Israel. Remember, that's where Goliath was from. He was from Gath. And on 2 different pottery shards Israeli archaeologists have found the name Goliath. And that, when you say the name Goliath, everyone knows who you're talking about. It's not like, oh, hey, John over here, well, John who? Goliath is the guy. And as a matter of fact, I got 2 of those replica pottery shards in my office now. And it has the inscription Goliath on there. So we know that Nephilim, the giants, ruled and roamed the earth prior to the flood, and they roamed after the earth, after the flood. And the question is why were they here, and how did they get back after the flood? What was their purpose? And we see that there's all kinds of evidence for these Nephilim that have gone out, and then some say were eventually dispersed from that area. And now we have Native Americans here in North America that have legends of giants in their culture. Isn't that interesting?
Yes. And with the stuff that, Brian Forrester and L.A. Marzulli and Rick Shaw and the crew, and I know you were down there with Chase Kletzky. She's probably listening right now. Hey, Chase.
Chase. Hello.
Yeah, she's the bomb. And you guys went down there. When you looked at those elongated skulls, what's the first thing that popped through your mind? I mean, was it Nephilim? Was it boarding or something else that may be not of this earth? What were you thinking?
Well, they're definitely strange. You're looking at these and you're thinking, okay, they're strange. I can tell you that they're anomalous in some features of the skulls. And LA had me pick 4 specific skulls to study. And as a matter of fact, Chase Kletzky and Joe Taylor, helped, was part of this team. But Chase and I really began to study these skulls. As a matter of fact, Chase helped me with the measurements. We did cranial volumes. She was charting, notes for me. And I mean, we just made a great team. We really did. But in the end, you have to ask, okay, are these human? Are they not human? And the only way to know for sure is to do testing. Looking at them, they have 2 eyes and a nose and a mouth, and it's not like they have double rows of teeth or anything like that, but they are anomalous in some features of the skull. In other words, some of them are missing the sagittal sutures. And now when you cradle headboard, you can prematurely fuse that sagittal suture that runs from the coronal suture in the front to the back. And you can prematurely fuse it with pressure. And over time, if you grow to a ripe old age of 80 or 90, that sagittal suture will have fused to the point where it's very difficult to see because of age.
Yeah, but there must be some evidence of the suture still being there.
And not all of them.
Really? No. Well, no, I've seen the ones that don't have the suture at all.
Yeah, not all of them are like that. Some of them are just not there.
Right.
And that's the anomaly of some of these. The fact that some of them, have a higher cranial capacity is with outside the normal range. And there's other things, like on one of the skulls, they had on the back, on the occipital part of the skull, they had what they call Inca bones. And these are in the suture pattern, but there's several of these wormial Inca bone, anomalies in the back of their skull. And you have to ask, what is that about? And in one of the cases, there was on the temporal side, which is the lateral side of your skull, there was about 4 of them. And look, we probably don't have those features in our skulls, but scientifically, we know that the Paracas culture, which is pre-Inca, we know that they practiced cranial headboarding. We know that. They had about 4 different types of cradle headboarding that they practiced. But the question is all of these skulls cradle headboarded, or were they congenital? Were some of them born this way? And the reason I say that is because one of the skulls was a mummy, an infant mummy that was 15 to 22 months old or so. This thing was still mummified. It was wrapped up, never been unwrapped. And the curator let us unwrap this mummy. It's probably 2,000 years old. And it took Joe Taylor and Chase and I probably 6 hours to unwrap this mummy wrap very delicately, very carefully, with great care. And as we began to unwrap this thing, this is on Watchers 8, by the way, on the DVD.
Yes, it is.
We began to unwrap this thing, the coloration and the intricate details that they put into this, these little colored crabs they embroidered into this wrapping probably indicates royalty. But when this thing came to light for the first time in probably 2,000 years, here is an infant elongated skull staring us in the face. The only infant elongated skull known in Peru. And it's no older than 22 months old, maybe as young as 15. And the question then is this congenital?
Right.
And so there's a lot of questions. My report I did for L.A. Marzulli came out in a book called On the Trail of the Nephilim, Volume 2. That was just released just not too long ago. My report's in there on those skulls, and it's available now.
When you know what, we're running out of time. I've got to touch upon a couple of things, and I get to talk about all of my favorite subjects. And my other one is Puma Punku. So let's jump down to there. And I asked Chase, by the way, if she could have birthed that baby with the elongated skull. She was like, no, I don't know how
that's funny.
Yeah, I don't know how that could have happened. But and the other thing I want to leave on this when it comes to the elongated skulls, I think that maybe the boarding, and I don't have any evidence of this, but they were trying to imitate something that they were seeing. I don't know what the intentions would be, other than maybe they wanted their children and themselves as they grew up to look like something that they had seen, possibly the Nephilim. So that's where that comes from. Let's go to Puma Punku. By the way, we are Fade to Black. We are talking to Dr. Aaron Judkins. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. This is Bespoke Radio for the Masses. Follow us on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Shoot me an email to jimmy@jimmychurchradio.com. Okay, we got that out of the way. Puma Punku. Just like Giza, when you go to Puma Punku and you're looking at these carvings, Tiwanaku too as well, and you look around and there's nothing there. There's nothing. There's no trees. There's no life. There's no nothing. You're at what? The elevation is 12,000 feet there?
Yeah, 12 or 13,000 feet, yeah.
Exactly right. Is that the first thing you ask yourself, is how did they do this? That's got to be the question, because there's nothing there. There's simply nothing there. And I doubt that there was something there, 1,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago. I doubt that the terrain has changed much. Is that the first?
You're asking how did they create this whole complex in area Pumapunku?
I'm asking, is that what you're asking yourself? That's the first thing. You just got to go, holy crap. Okay.
Well, it is. You have to when you go in there. I was kind of perplexed, actually, because I expected a huge complex in Pumapunku, and it wasn't. It was a much smaller complex than Tiwanaku is. And Tiwanaku is very close, within just a couple of miles from Pumapunku. I didn't know that. It's funny. I went in there into Pumapunku, and I'm looking for the huge H blocks.
Right.
And I'm looking 6, 7, 8 feet tall, these H blocks. And I'm looking, and they're not there. And I'm asking Chase. I said, where are the H blocks at? There, I don't see any. And then we walk up to one, and they're about knee high.
Right.
And you're thinking, are these the H blocks? They are. They're knee high. Holy crap! Holy cow! What is this about? But Pumapunku was a really neat place to visit. We walked all around the complex there, and of course Pumapunku means the doorway of the puma. and I think it's associated with Tiwanaku. I don't think they're separate. I think they're the same culture, the Tiwanakas. I think they're just separated, by some distance. But it is an interesting thing how they did that. Now, when you look at the H blocks, and a lot of these stones are inset, right? They're cut with these geometrical patterns. Okay, there's cuts within cuts within cuts, and when you're looking at these, they looked very precise. But when we actually had a square that we took with us, and some things that we were able to use, and not everything is precisely square, not everything is 90-degree angle, not everything is precision laser cut. They're very close. I think they were cut from the same pattern, but not from a laser. They're very close, but they're not identical. And but what were they used for? What was this all about? And it just may have been a huge religious complex there. I don't know what they were doing there, but when you go over to the Tiwanaku side, that is huge.
Right.
Huge complex there. And
the indigenous people didn't write. They have no written language. When I look at Tiwanaku and I look at Pumapunku, what makes me scratch my head is it looks, they're so consistent in their height and their size and their form that it looks like they were cut from plans, blueprints, if you will, and they were able to replicate, but yet there's no evidence of the design or plans or written language or any of that. And that's where my red flags start to get thrown up here, because it doesn't make any sense on the consistency, and the consistency between them is nearly perfect. And when you look at them side by side, you can tell that they were in production. They were replicating. They were intentionally building these to be the same. And that doesn't come from primitive culture. And it's not that I'm trying to not give man credit for intelligence, but this is way beyond a leap of faith.
Well, yeah, it really is. They're very complex structures there. Tiwanaku's not fully excavated either. There's a lot in there, but there is a lot you can see, and there's huge megalithic stones on top of each other. Of course, there's the Gateway of the Sun that's all famous there in Tiwanaku, but it's quite interesting that they were able to do these things, and the patterns and the stones that they were able to cut, and some of them are coming out of the ground and halfway buried. Some are up on the surface, and you have to really walk around Tiwanaku and kind of get off the beaten path to get to some of those areas. But and we filmed some of this on Watchers 8, but I don't think any of that footage from Bolivia made it on Watchers 8. We had so much material, we just couldn't get it all in.
I'm gonna throw something else out there for you really quick. You remember that H, the Hermes on the belt back at Gobekli Tepe?
Yes.
Look at the H blocks at Pumapunku. I'm just saying.
Right.
I'm just saying. It's something you should look into.
Yeah, I know. It's curious. Is there some kind of relevance to that symbol? Is it an H? We know the H. We recognize that from a Greek alphabet, but this thing goes way past Greece, the Greek alphabet. I don't know. Is that a letter or is that a symbol? And if it's a symbol, what does it mean? We don't know. But I wonder if they excavate any further and they find more of those, that would be interesting.
Well, look, go back, do a little homework tomorrow. Go back and look at that belt and the belt buckle. Look at the ratio and the dimensions on how the H is constructed on the belt at Gobekli Tepe, and then just go back and look at the H blocks at Pumapunku, and it's just kind of too weird. It's kind of, there are no coincidences, as
it may not be. I wouldn't have put that together until now, but yeah, that is interesting. It's something worthwhile to look into.
You want to take a couple phone calls before you get out of here?
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. 323-825-5045. 323-825-5045. First-time caller. I'll throw something in. First-time caller. I've got two. You know what I'll do tonight? I have two. I'm holding them in my hands. I have two Billy Meyer DVDs. I've got two of these. And I have Watchers 8 starring Maverick. Who's Maverick?
Who is that guy?
Who is that guy? Pumapunku freaks me out. I don't know how back then, even if it was 500 years ago, let's just go with that. Not impossible, and I know they were good with rock, and I get that, I understand it, but it's just too good. And if you go back, let's go back 1,000 years, and there's we have the problems with metallurgy and other things that would have to come into play to cut these. And if you go back further than that, then we're dealing with just chicken bones, and I don't see how they got these things cut. I just don't. I don't. Assistance from above, you know what? There's a lot of different theories on the table, but it just seems like it's too high of an intelligence. It's too amazing, and the drilling, and even if it was soft stone, even if it's too perfect, it's just too good for a culture that didn't have writing.
Yeah, it's well done. No question about it.
Let's jump to Machu Picchu. That's another place that's on my bucket list. I've got to ask you the same question when it comes to Pumapunku and Tiwanaku and Giza. When you get up to Pumapunku, is that the first thing that you think as well? How did they pull this one off?
Well, I really had that awe moment. There's a few times I've had awe moments in my life when I'm standing in archaeological places. One was in the Giza pyramid by the pyramid, the Great Pyramid. The other was in Chaco Canyon in North New Mexico, and the other one was Machu Picchu. And when you see Machu Picchu, I have to tell you, Jimmy, that blew me away. That really did. It's a lost world back there. It still is. It was lost to time for some 500 years, and it was untouched and unspoiled. Thank God that the conquistadors never found it. The Spanish never found it. Had they found it, it wouldn't have been Machu Picchu like we know it today.
Right.
When they came in and sacked Cusco, and they killed the last Inca ruler in the square publicly, that was it for the Incas. They were done. It devastated the Inca culture. There was no more after that. But one of the generals held back at one of the strongholds at Ollantaytambo there that's right near Machu Picchu. That's as far as they got, was Ollantaytambo. And that is a very interesting place as well. But the Inca Trail disappears back up through there, and the conquistadors never knew about it. And that's why they sent all the women and the children and everything back to Machu Picchu, and they held out there. But, Hiram Bingham found that, I think it was 1901 or 1911.
Exactly.
And when he finally got on the Inca Trail and he found it, it was overgrown and jungle all over it. But the great thing about it was untouched. And now when you go there and you see Machu Picchu and you see Huayna Picchu behind it, it is literally like stepping back in time. It really is.
I still can't put my mind around the formation of the walls and the rocks and how they were carved and fit together. I mean, you find that all over Peru and Bolivia, but you have to think of the elevation and how they got those rocks up there to begin with. the steepest of steep cliffs. And it is so artistically beautiful. It is majestic, and so much thought and everything that went into it. But it was also the resources that went into it. Just as fascinating as Giza. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Say hi to Dr. Maverick Judkins.
Hello, Dr. Maverick Judkins. This is Bear speaking.
Hi, Bear.
And you got me spinning in my chair.
What have you got? What have you got tonight for us, Bear?
Oh, just yeah. You mentioned the drinking game one too many times, I'm afraid, and I just had to call in and say hello.
There we are.
Okay, all right. Do you have a hey Bear? Do you have a question?
Yeah.
Do you have a question for Aaron?
You know, the thing is, there's just so much going on with a lot of the ancient, geology and stuff like that, and it's just, I'm looking for the day when, things will sort of, get more resolved. It's just like, a lot of good work going on, but it's just like, boy, that whole region.
We're on the trail. I can tell you, I'm hot on the trail. I am.
We're hot on the trail, and I think something big's about ready to break if the politics will just settle down and let it happen.
Thank you so much, Bear. Hey, Bear.
Okay, hey, your audio sounded better tonight. Be well, be safe, and be cautious.
You got it, Bear. The bright spot of my day right there. Aaron, he brings up a great point. And let's back up 20 years before the internet. Let's back up before 1990.
I remember those days.
Yeah, right, exactly. Our access was books in the library, a couple of specials on television once a year or twice a year, whatever, maybe a movie or two, but you had your books, you had Life magazine, Time magazine, Nat Geo, but that was it. You only knew what you were taught, and so the connections of the dots between the Sun Pyramid in Mexico City and Machu Picchu, the Mayan stuff that's going on, all the way over to Giza and being able to Mesopotamia, Samaria, being able to connect all the dots, not only with archaeology but geology too as well. Now we have the internet, and people now are able to ask these questions themselves. When you start to look at all of this and the similarities, we don't have to accept what we have been taught. Now we can learn ourselves. And I think that archaeology is going to be forced into answering these questions now that they've been ignoring.
Well, I mean, that's part of the reason I do what I do is to go out and, try to see if we can get some facts and some data on these things and to bring it back and put it on the table. That's what I do. And look, I don't try to convince anyone of anything. I have my own beliefs and my own preconceptions and presuppositions, and we all do, and that's fine. But what I want to try to do is bring some facts and data back to the table and say, okay, here it is. The evidence speaks for itself. And if there's Noah's Ark on Greater Ararat, then it is what it is. But that would change everything. It would be a game changer, because we would have to then accept, at least for some, you would have to rethink your history. Well, maybe if that thing was true, okay, well, what else is true? What else do we know? Maybe the giants were true. Maybe the Nephilim were true.
Right.
And it all goes back. Look, the reason Noah's Ark is really important, because it's the one man-made artifact that was prior to the flood that still may exist. And if so, wow, that's a holy grail of archaeology. That would change everything we'd know.
Well, the Holy Grail's the Holy Grail of archaeology too. I just had to do that.
You're absolutely right. And it's one of the Holy Grails of archaeology. Certainly Noah's Ark would fit in that category.
I think Noah's Ark is one of the two great questions that are we alone? And did Noah's Ark happen? Those are the two. One of those gets proven, we can start to wrap up the questions of humanity. Hi, you're live on Fade to Black. Say hi to...
Hi, how are you tonight? This is Dino.
Hi, Dino.
Thank you. Hi, how are you? Enjoying it. Aaron, thank you for all you've taught us tonight. All I wanted to ask you is, what do you have to say about the archaeological establishment and the lies, and would you want to bad rap the Smithsonian? I mean, for you to do this, I guess you're rejected by so many, and yet you're just, I want to thank you for having a critical mind. So tell us what you think about them.
Thank you,
Dino.
Thank you so much. Great question. There are good people doing good work in the halls of academia, and there are good people doing work, and that work needs to be done. But there is another side of the establishment that is constricting, and they don't look outside of their field. And I like to be multi-dimensional, kind of a multi-dimensional approach. Bring other geologists, other archaeologists, people in the field other than yourself. And that's what we did with the Search for Noah's Ark. We brought in geologists, archaeologists. I mean, we brought in a lot of people from different scientific backgrounds. And you need that multidisciplinary approach. And I think they get locked in and they get laser focused and they forget there's other people that could help them. But there's a great pressure not to buck the system. If you buck the system, you're going to get hurt because you're going to upset the apple cart, if it will, and people don't like that. They don't like change, and it's very difficult. Because people usually have their minds made up about something, and especially if it goes against the grain of the status quo, look, I've seen good people, geologists, archaeologists, who have had their careers squashed because they have came out with the evidence, and it wasn't accepted, and it was ignored, but because they pressed forward with that information, they have had their careers destroyed, and it's really a shame. There's a good documentary that came out a couple of years ago by Ben Stein called, what was it called? Expelled, No Intelligence Allowed.
It's amazing.
If you haven't seen that, you need to see it. But when you asked about the Smithsonian, I wrote a chapter on the first volume, On the Trail of the Nephilim, Volume 1, by L.A. Marzulli, and I wrote a chapter in that book, Volume 1, and I speak about the Smithsonian, so you can check it out there.
Oh, now, okay. Do you subscribe to the trend now, certainly on the fringe, about the Smithsonian suppressing evidence over the last 100 years, and certainly with giants in America? Every time something has been published in a newspaper, the story just goes away the next day, and the evidence is gone. Do you think some of that could have happened?
Yes, I think some of that happened back in the early day. Now, present day, they deny that, and they say, we haven't ever done anything like that, and maybe just people don't know that maybe that had happened in the past. I don't know that they're doing it now, but I know one of my colleagues wrote a letter to them, said, please let us look because look, everything that you see in the hallways is not everything that's there. Most of the things that you don't see is storage and or in the basement.
Right.
And you don't see those things. And so they kind of wrote back a sarcastic letter and said, well, look, if you think you can find something, then come on. And they kind of, they've kind of had that attitude. The Smithsonian's a great institution. But I do know of one particular site. Back in the late 90s, I went to Utah where there was an excavation going on, and the landowner back in the 70s, the original landowner, in the Dakota sandstone, a couple of 100 feet, 50 feet down or so. I think it's 50 feet down. It's the same layer as in the dinosaurs over in Vernal, Utah, where they have the Dinosaur National Monument. Well, he hit human remains in the Dakota sandstone, the same layer as the dinosaurs. he hit human remains, and this is an area where they mine malachite and azurite mineral. Okay, malachite's the green mineral. The bones, the malachite leached into the bones and turns everything a very beautiful turquoise colored green.
Mm-hmm.
But he found a skull completely intact, mandible, maxillary, all the teeth, and even the teeth were green. And the Smithsonian, according to his story, caught wind of what he had. They came and they said, we want to study this thing because it's neat and, it's green and we want to, I guess is what they want to study it. We'll give it back to you, but we need it for study. So the story is that he lent them this skull and it never came back. Boom, disappeared. Poof, it's gone. And there's nothing he can do about it. How do we know there's human remains there? Because there's much more that's been found since then. And when I was there in 1998, there was more that he had found. And I'm talking, these are articulated, and look, they're green, and, this thing's gone now. Where did it go? The Smithsonian took it somewhere, but we can't get it back.
How long does it take? How long does it take to get the bones green? Is it something that could take 5,000 years, or are we talking crazy time?
I don't know. It takes some pressure and some time to leach that mineral into the bone. These were not fossilized, by the way, but the mineral had transferred into the bone and turned it green. I don't know how long that would take. I would suspect several hundred years, but I just don't know. But that's an interesting thing. I know of other accounts from way back in the early 20th century that these things were going on. I just don't know. There's a lot of unknowns for sure about that, and we know that Barnum Brown and a lot of those guys were collecting, and a lot of that stuff ended up at the Smithsonian. But I don't know. I'm sure they have a lot of stuff down there. Do they have giant bones? I don't know. But I know that there are certainly reports all around this country that something existed at one time, and that's why I'm on the trail.
Before a couple of last quick questions, really quick. I need to get these in off of Twitter. Who built the mounds in the Ohio Valley, and for what purpose?
Oh, okay, interesting. The general story is that the local Indians built that, but the Indians say, no, it's not ours. We didn't do it. That's the story you're going to hear from the mainstream archaeologist. Although there are reports that there were giants found within those mounds. So that's quite interesting. They said that was there before they were there. And even the Choctaws said, you know what, there were giants here before we were here. So I don't know. The Native Americans do not claim that as theirs, though. It's quite interesting.
Have you found any vibrational energy at any of the sites that you've been to, such as Machu Picchu, Pumapunku, Tiwanaku? I'm sure you were vibrating all over the Giza Valley and Plateau. But.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had some of those wow moments. One of that was at Machu Picchu. But Chase, when we were in Peru, Chase had some forensic investigative equipment that she brought, and one of them was to pick up vibrational energies and things of this nature. And she set that thing in a couple of places, and right in where we were told to set up the equipment. And Chase was ready to go. I mean, everything's ready to go. She sets it up, she turns it on, and boom, it goes dead. The whole thing went dead, and she can't turn it back on. And she's shaking it. She's like, I don't know. And we're like, Chase, what's up? And she said, this thing was in perfect working order, and I turn it on, and it goes dead, and I can't get it back on. We don't know what that's about, but that's what happened.
Robert Schock wouldn't tell me what happened to him in the King's Chamber. He said some things are just, personal, and I can't. Everybody talks about their own experiences there. Anything moving when you were there?
Not in the king's chamber. That's interesting. Dr. Schock had something must have happened.
Yeah.
I don't know. For some of us,
he spent the night alone, the entire night.
What?
Alone in the sarcophagus.
He spent the night in the thing?
Alone.
No wonder. Okay, well, I can't do that. I'm not Dr. Schock, okay? I didn't get to do that. Maverick had to leave and go out in the thing. But if Dr. Schock said something happened, but look, if you're over there overnight and I can only imagine.
I know.
I would be tripped out. I don't know that I would do that. If they said, "Oh yeah, you can," I don't know that I would even do that.
I've said the same thing. There's no way I would do it.
Oh my goodness! Hats off to Dr. Schock. I don't know that I would do that. No wonder he won't talk about it.
Please ask Aaron about G.E. Kincaid and the discoveries in the Grand Canyon.
They must be talking about the Egyptian artifacts and things that may have been found there.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I don't know. There's an area that's off limits to the Grand Canyon, to the public, that you're not allowed to go to. You're not even able to fly over that area. It's off limits. And my question is, why? Why can't we go and look? Why can't we go and see these things? I don't know. The evidence for Egyptians in North America is very vague. We do know that a lot of cultures were here pre-Columbian. Okay, we do know the Phoenicians were here, and the Chinese and the Japanese and the Romans. I mean, we got a lot of people coming over here before 1491. We know that for sure. But the evidence for the Egyptians is pretty vague. It's circumstantial at best. But the fact that we can't get over there to really investigate it remains an unknown.
Every time I fly over the Grand Canyon and I look down, it is so friggin' massive. And unless you've been there, and I've stood on the edge a few times, it is incredibly, insanely humongo. And there's just no way. And that we know everything about it. There's just no way. It's impossible to climb up and down and know. But if you're going to close off a section of that, it is so massive, there's no way that you'd be able to go in and spend enough time there to research and discover. So it would be an easy thing to hide.
Well, it would be. I know that there's a pictograph found that looks like a dinosaur in the Grand Canyon, which is kind of interesting because I've done a lot of pictograph and petroglyph research in the American Southwest. Let me tell you, there's some strange stuff there. Some strange stuff that looks like, pterodactyls or dinosaurs or dragons or whatever you want to call it, but things that are not Native American traditionally. So lots of interesting things out there.
Well, you alluded to this earlier, so I got to go back to it. I'm glad I just remembered. Are you suggesting that man and dinosaurs were hanging out?
I'm suggesting that there's circumstantial evidence for that. Do I say that with confidence? I'm saying that there's circumstantial evidence that means that something was still here, that the Native Americans would draw their pictographs and petroglyphs of these things. How did the Native America, how did they know what a dinosaur looked like?
They didn't.
Unless they saw one.
Right.
How do they do that? So look, Native Americans are very superstitious. They will not touch dead bodies or bones. They won't do it.
And what about, the human footprints and dinosaur footprints, together? What do you make of that?
Well, I studied that phenomenon for many years. That was one of my first big things to try to study. And I got knee deep in the thing. I mean, I really did. The key to me was original excavations, and over the years, I've been a part of those excavations. Some very intriguing things have come out of those. I tend to believe that is true, that there are, as a matter of fact, Ancient Aliens used some of my work on one of the episodes for humans and dinosaurs and aliens and all that stuff on one of their programs. But I have to tell you that there is evidence, not just in the States, but globally, around the world, there's evidence for human fossil footprints in ancient rock. And either you have to push man millions of years back in time to be stepping in ancient rock, or everything has to be condensed somehow. And the question is, did man and dinosaur live together? There's a lot of evidence that suggests that maybe some dinosaurs were still around in the jungles of the Congo. There is what the natives call Mochilium bembe. There's reports, and I know colleagues that are in Papua New Guinea trying to find out what the locals are seeing, what they're describing as large pterodactyls. There's just so much in this world we don't know yet. But, why would someone go look for Noah's Ark? And look, you don't know unless you don't go.
What are you doing now?
That's it.
Are you speaking? Is there anything going on?
Yeah,
wait. When's the release of Noah coming out?
Okay, well,
Finding Noah.
Thank you for asking. We don't have a release date yet. It's still in post-production. We're in the process of getting a distributor for the film. So I think that's going to happen very soon. And until then, we don't have a release date. It'll be contingent on the distributor. But as soon as we get a release date, I promise I'll put it up on my website at aaronjudkins.com. And I'll have the release date up there. But it should be coming to a theater near you this year. And that's what we're looking for. Yes, I go speak. I was in Laughlin, Nevada back in November with Chase. I've got some speaking engagements coming forth for this year that are in the works. Of course, Finding Noah, the film. We need 300,000 likes on the Facebook page for Finding Noah. So I really need your help.
Oh, why didn't you say that? We could have locked that up about an hour ago.
We really need some help. We need some traction. So 300,000 likes on the Facebook Finding Noah page. And of course, you can go to findingnoah.com, and the movie trailer is up now. You can see that. So yes, I do go speak all over, and I do have some things pending for other sites, maybe Turkey, maybe Peru.
Gobekli Tepe better be next.
I'd love to get over to Gobekli Tepe. Some things are happening behind the scenes, Jimmy, that I'd love to talk about. Some possible. Very close discussions with some people about doing a reality show. And so I'm on Archaeology, and I really need help on that for people to go to aaronjudkins.com. There's a little poll I have up there, and vote for what you want to see, because your input really counts right now. These guys are looking at that, and it's important because this thing may come to fruition, or it may be decided, within the next coming weeks or months. But I think something very soon, Jimmy's going to happen, and some great opportunities are coming down the line for old Maverick here. And I'm loving every bit of it, but I promise I will keep you updated, and I'll just keep doing what I'm doing.
If there's any assistance, any help that we can do here at Fade to Black, you need anything at all, we're here for you. We'll make the push. We'll get all the links up at jimmychurchradio.com. We'll make sure that we do this Facebook push for you. 300,000 hits. We'll take care of that.
Awesome.
And anything else that we can do. Also, before I let you go, we're at the end here. We're going to roll credits here in a second. Inception Radio, you're on Epic Voyages over there, and you have Man vs. Archaeology. Where can people go and listen to you?
They can go to my website, aaronjudkins.com. You can follow me that way. All the social media is there. And then I guest host Epic Voyages Radio once a month. It's live Monday nights, and it's at inceptionradionetwork.com is where we're at. But I just do it for fun. I love it. But I have been a big fan of yours, Jimmy. Fade to Black, Rock On, all the Fadernauts. Thank you so much. I really, really have enjoyed this time with you tonight.
I can't wait to get you back on, man. And the sooner, the better. And again, thank you. Man vs. Archaeology, Epic Voyages, Inception Radio. Go check out Aaron. Aaron, thank you so much, my brother. I really had a great time.
Yes, sir. It's been an honor and a privilege. And all the Fadernauts, Have a very good night and rock on.
Thank you, Aaron. Aaron Judkins, everybody. Thank you so much, Aaron. Wow, took it up to the bitter end here. Thank you so much, Aaron. I cannot thank you enough. That was all that and more. This is Fade to Black on the Game Changer Radio Network. Don't forget, tomorrow night, everybody, tomorrow night is what? Fader Night. The best night of the week. We are going to rock it tomorrow night. Looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Aaron. Dr. Aaron Judkins, everybody. AaronJudkins.com. He needs 300,000 likes on his Facebook page. Let's take care of that. Fade to Black's executive producer is Rita Kamaryan. Show is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Mark D. Kovar, LJ3, Renee, and Jonas. Without them, there is no me. Announcers are Steve Harder, Gene Vito, and Mark D. Kovar. Fady by Dale. Webmaster is Method of Signaling. Thank you, Method. Music by Doug Aldridge. Intro by Spaceboy, spaceboymusic.com. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. Tomorrow night is Fader Night. Taking your calls live. Everybody be safe. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. See ya.